What's going on, everybody? Welcome to LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. As always, I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for being here with us tonight. We have a pretty good show lined up. We have a lot of things to talk about.
Our post MLK Day show.
Yes, post
or,
MLK.
As I like to call it, that's not what MLK meant. So sit your ass down, Day.
Yes, Martin Luther King Jr. Day was yesterday, and I think it's always a time where we should reflect on the life of Martin Luther King Jr. and what he stood for. But we do realize that when that day comes along, people do often try to tie themselves to him and play political games.
Tie themselves to it and kind of wrap, like, I guess, what they portray his legacy to be with their ideology and try to kind of draw some similarity to it or try to justify their ideology using the words of Martin Luther King.
Right. Very meaningful.
There was a lot
deliberate.
Oh no, it is deliberate.
Yeah.
Because I don't for a second think they honestly, in their hearts, believe they're a representation.
Right.
Or believe their ideology and their political positions are a representation of Martin Luther King or his legacy or whatever his legacy represents. I don't believe that for 1 second. So they know what they're doing. There's a lot of events going on, a lot of marches yesterday, a lot of speeches going on, good ones. So shout out to all the people that represented Martin Luther King's legacy correctly.
Right.
And attempted to highlight that the United States is not living in that legacy, because we like to do that in the United States. We like to kind of rhetorically celebrate his legacy and not really implement any of it within our politics, just our body of politics in general.
Much of the things that he was talking about in the 50s and the 60s, it's relatable to what's going on today. But again, a lot of people try to tie themselves to his message because he is looked at as like this heroic figure. But he's dead and gone for many, many years, well, 50 years now. So it's easy for them to tie their being to him since he's gone.
Oh, yeah. I think that's important to mention because it's kind of easy to control his message when he's gone. Like if he was still speaking, it would be much harder to.
Right.
Most people, well, everyone actually, has to kind of go research and go look at the context behind what he said.
And
not just his words.
Past the I have a dream speech,
past
you got to go past the I have a dream speech.
Oh, you mean like things like America is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world?
Something like that.
And when he was assassinated, what, 68?
That's right.
So that's what, 50 years ago?
Yeah.
So really, like how much about the United States has changed since then? How much of like all of what he brought up as far as his grievances, how like have those grievances been addressed?
Not in a.
Do you see what I'm saying? Can people legitimately say yes to any of those questions? And if you can't say yes to any of those questions, or even enough of those questions, I don't sit there and see how people can kind of at the same time celebrate his legacy while championing the United States unconditionally. Right.
Like things that have been were going on back then in the 50s and in the 60s and the 70s as well. It is different, nowadays, 50 years later. It is different. We don't have the Jim Crow laws. Segregation is still here, though. I mean, there's a lot of things that are still significantly here or significant problems. It's not like it was back then, but again, like we need to do way more to actually address everything that Martin Luther King Jr.
The same systematic issues that he kind of called out back then exist now.
Exactly. So let's get to some of these characters that we're trying to mix things up a little bit.
That's stating it lightly.
Yeah.
Mr. Gaillard.
Yeah.
That's stating it lightly.
Yeah, they were trying to, connect themselves to the message of Martin Luther King Jr. First, we have that organization called the NRA, the National Rifle Association.
Ratchet Association.
Yeah, so on that glorious day, which was just yesterday, they put out a post on Twitter. And it says, Today, the men and women of the NRA honor the profound life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King applied for a concealed carry permit in a May-issue state and was denied. We will never stop fighting for every law-abiding citizen's right to self-defense. Hashtag MLK Day.
You know, the first thing that came to mind when I saw that tweet?
What's that?
Philando Castile.
Oh, yeah.
Philando Castile came to mind, and you know who else came to mind?
Who?
Their spokesperson,
Oh,
Dana Loesch, who
Loesch.
pretty much went on national TV and justified the murder of Philando Castile and did everything she could to put him at fault
Right.
for what the cop did and for what was obviously a mishap on the cop's fault. If you watch that video, he was just all up in his nervous feelings.
That's correct. That's correct.
But yeah, their spokesman got on national TV and did not stand up for the rights of a United States citizen to carry a gun.
Yeah. What came into my head was, you know, the NRA is famously, historically against gun control, right? But years ago, during this time too, I mean, it was during the time of Martin Luther King Jr. I believe it was in 1967.
Are you kind of trying to ease into a conversation about the Black Panthers?
Oh yes, they are involved.
Okay. All right.
Anybody ever heard of the Mulford Act? You know, 1967. This was a time and period where the NRA actually campaigned with the government to ensure that gun control was actually implemented because they were scared of black people actually taking arms and carrying them out in public. And
what was the main purpose of, at that time, black people carrying arms and taking up arms? What was the main motive for doing that?
To defend their damn selves.
To defend their damn selves. Exactly. Like that's a little pepper on that.
Yeah, a little bit of pepper. But yeah, again, that's just one entity that is trying to hijack what Martin Luther King Jr. is about. Another person trying to distort the message that Martin Luther King Jr. Represented is our Vice President, Mike Pence. So Mike Pence actually appeared on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday, and here's a little bit of video of what he said.
The hearts and minds of the American people today are thinking a lot about it being the weekend where we remember the life and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. King was, "Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy." You think of how he changed America. He inspired us to change through the legislative process to become a more perfect union. That's exactly what President Trump is calling on the Congress to do. Come to the table in a spirit of good faith. We'll secure our border, we'll reopen the government, and we'll move our nation forward, as the President said yesterday, to even a broader discussion about immigration reform in the months ahead.
That's exactly what Trump is trying to do. Inspire the nation to change. Because that's all that, Martin Luther King was trying to do. That encompasses his message perfectly. He was just inspiring us to change. Now, if he outlines it like that, if he outlines, MLK's message, when I'm using the word outlines, when really I should use the word diminish.
Yeah.
If he's diminishing it to just those things, inspiring us to change or form a more perfect union, like I can apply that to any ideology I want to, because it's just some sort of loose statement.
And it's just about your personal perception too,
yeah,
or your perspective. Like you can have all kinds of crazy opinions and kind of, I guess, try to position them as, oh, I'm trying to do the right thing for the country. They could be busted ideas.
They could be busted things, yeah.
Again, Mike Pence using Martin Luther King Jr. to push his and Donald Trump's idea. And it's been called a vanity project, which it is. To push that is despicable. It's disgusting. Demonizing undocumented immigrants.
You don't think that's something that Martin Luther King would approve of?
No,
huh?
Because again, what Mike Pence said was that he inspired us to change through the legislative process. Again, demonizing undocumented immigrants, what does that have to do with the legislative process?
Oh, you mean like kind of referring to immigrants as, murderers,
Right.
rapists,
Exactly.
gang
Demonizing
members,
Mexicans.
kind of presenting this false narrative that they are getting benefits that they're not getting. So if we're going to talk about, if he's going to talk about, like you said, the legislative process and this whole border conversation, it doesn't just surround them wanting to build a wall.
Right.
It surrounds everything that they have used in order to justify their position on the wall. So we can't just not talk about those things.
Yeah. Everything that he said was just based in lie. I mean, this administration has been lying about what the border wall will actually do for people on both sides of the wall. They've lied about crime statistics. They've lied about drugs coming in and out and what a border wall will do. So to try to push it through Martin Luther King's words and try to say that, hey, he was for trying to make us perform democracy better. No, these two things don't look alike, and it's just the same effort. Mike Pence in 1968 would not have been pro Martin Luther King Jr.
He would have been part of that crowd that was saying that Martin Luther King was dividing America.
Of course.
He would have been like,
An
oh,
instigator,
that
an agitator.
instigator, that look at that, he's being influenced by the communists.
But again, every year, it's annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's an annual day. It's a federal holiday, and this is just an opportunity for these conservatives to misrepresent what MLK Jr. was about.
It's almost like I look forward to it in one sense, but then I kind of,
It's like,
yeah, like we gotta
know what's coming.
We gotta go through this shit again.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I tend to focus on, like, I guess the more accurate representations of his legacy by watching speeches, stuff like that.
All right, so let's move on. All right, so today is the 32nd day of the shutdown. So we are over a month into this thing now. And people are still negatively being affected by this. 800,000 government workers out of work, thousands more that aren't federal employees, but they're contracted to do federal work. They're impacted as well. So we have to consistently highlight that. But on Saturday, President Trump made a speech and he was addressing this shutdown, and he updated his offer to the Democratic Party. And we have some video about what that updated offer now looks like.
I want this to end. It's got to end now. These are not talking points. These are the heartbreaking realities that are hurting innocent, precious human beings every single day on both sides of the border. This is a common sense compromise both parties should embrace. The radical left can never control our borders. I will never let it happen. Walls are not immoral. In fact, they are the opposite of immoral because they will save many lives and stop drugs from pouring into our country. Number one is 3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age many years ago. This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most importantly. Secondly, our proposal provides a 3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants.
I really wasn't aware that the far left or the radical left had control over anything in the government. I don't know who he's referring to as being the far left, but I mean, somebody should have told us.
I guess he's just saying that he has to ensure that it will never happen. I don't know how he's going to do that since there is a limit to his presidency. Even if it is 8 years, there's still a limit. So, but anyway, so this is an updated offer to the Democratic Party. I believe he stated that this was common sense and should be something that Congress members support. I guess he believes that this is, even though it wasn't a deal that was arrived at through a bipartisan approach, he's just, I guess, throwing it out there that the
it's a good
deal. Should accept it.
It's a good deal because he says it's a good deal, is what you're telling me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But I mean, just if you're just thinking about it comparatively, a 30-foot, 2,000-mile long wall that is essentially going to last forever on one side,
right,
and on the other side you have 3 years of protection. 3 years of protection.
That's correct. So yeah, the 3 years of protection is, I guess, it's twofold. The 3 years of protection, it would go to DACA recipients, and it would go to about 700,000 of them that are current DACA recipients, and it would also go to people in temporary protected status. So that's about 300 people that are facing expiration dates of being in the country. Those that are coming from, it's a list of countries where people come here because of, it could be violence in their country, it could be environmental disaster, just different reasons. But so yeah, that's he's also adding $12.7 billion in supplemental funding for regions hit by hurricanes, wildfires, and other natural disasters as a way to, I guess, invite more support. Hey, that's something that we can all get behind.
First of all, that's not like something you throw in there as some sort of deal like maker.
No,
because that's normal stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Like hurricane and fire relief. That's
nobody's against that.
Nobody's against that. That's not like some sort of deal maker, because actually that's stuff that he should always be for, regardless of what kind of situation we're in,
right,
regardless of whether it's like a shutdown or a general funding situation. That's not something special.
So this offer is much different than the offer that Trump made at the beginning of 2018, in which he was going to protect 1.8 million undocumented immigrants and provide them a pathway to citizenship in exchange for, I believe it was about $25 billion in border security, in which those funds could be used to construct a border wall as well. So this is much, much different, much, much less. I view it as nothing because, like you said, a 3 years of protection for a border wall that likely will always be there is not equal.
I view it as, because like you mentioned, this current deal, or this current push for a deal by Trump, actually comes with like lesser concessions.
That's right.
Okay, so to me, there's somebody behind the scenes. There's somebody behind the scenes. This sounds like some Stephen Miller bullshit right here.
Yeah, it could be. That could be. So the Democratic Party, and I believe it wasn't, I think Nancy Pelosi Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi made a statement on this before Trump's speech even ended. So this is her statement, or part of it at least. She said, "It is unlikely that any one of these provisions alone would pass the House, and taken together, they are a non-starter. For one thing, this proposal does not include the permanent solution for the Dreamers and TPS recipients that our country needs and supports." Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer added, "It was the president who single-handedly took away DACA and TPS protections in the first place. Offering some protections back in exchange for the wall is not a compromise, but more hostage taking."
Yeah, basically, if he was really interested in making the deal, he would kind of go back to the initial parameters
that the Democrats actually
approved of. You see what I'm saying? Like,
right.
He pretty much rejected that deal.
Right. So it doesn't seem as though the Democratic Party is open to this substantial offer by President Trump.
Substantial, of course.
But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, he pledged that he is going to put up the bill for a vote this week. And he said, Everyone has made their point. Now it's time to make a law. I intend to move this legislation this week with bipartisan cooperation. The Senate can send a bill to the House quickly so that they can take action as well. The situation for furloughed employees isn't getting any brighter, and the crisis at the border isn't improved by show votes. But the president's plan is a path towards addressing both issues quickly. So they are going to be taking that. So actually, there's going to be there's 2 bills that are going to be voted on in the Senate on Thursday. One is this plan from Donald Trump, and then the other one is a move just to fund the government through February 8th that doesn't have any money going towards this border wall.
Oh, so it's like he's trying to like set up this little like cage match.
Yeah.
Between the two. That's what I'm saying. It's a little cage match between
that's what it seems
these 2
like.
bills.
Yeah, that's what it seems
So
like.
they're going to be fighting in the octagon.
On the floor of the
on
Senate.
the floor
right?
of the Senate, these 2 bills.
They might set up.
They might set
or something like that.
In this corner.
We have to get Dana White in there or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is again, this isn't a substantial offer. And again, I would frame it like
it's not what Mitch McConnell said.
Like you said, you're pulling back some of the offer that you just made just about a year ago.
About a year ago.
And you want the Democrats to just be like, okay, yeah, that's great.
You're offering something that is not even 10%. Actually, maybe not, that's just being generous.
It's just being generous.
10% of what you previously offered.
Right. But not everybody is happy, and not just the Democrats. There are conservatives as well that are not happy with Trump even offering 3 years of protection for these people. So noted conservative political pundit Ann Coulter, she said on Twitter, 100 miles of border wall in exchange for amnestying millions of illegals. So if we grant citizenship to 1 billion foreigners, maybe we can finally get a full border wall.
Woo! And Crypt Keeper. That's what I like to call her because that's what she looks like to me.
Yeah.
She knows she has some leverage.
Yes, she does.
Over Trump.
Yeah.
That's all the leverage she needs. I don't think she has leverage amongst like the Republican base.
No.
But if she's in, she
has a voice.
She has a voice.
Yeah.
If she's in the ear of Donald Trump, just like Rush Limbaugh, that's all that matters. That's who he's listening to. He thinks that they have more power than they actually do, and they to me represent like almost like a part of his subconscious that cater to his ego, and they know it. They know it. They know they have.
They can get.
They know they can get to him.
On Tuesday, Trump tweeted out, without a wall, our country can never have border or national security. With a powerful wall or steel barrier, crime rates and drugs will go substantially down all over the United States. The Dems know this, but want to play political games. Must finally be done correctly, no cave. So, in that tweet and then in his address that he made on Saturday, it just further spreads this lie that he consistently tells about what the border wall is going to do. He's going to, he said it's going to save lives, stop drugs. And
stop crime.
But we have already noted that the vast majority, about 90% or more of the drugs that are coming into this country illegally come via point of entry.
And this
legal point of entry.
And then this data and this information comes via the State Department,
which is his own damn administration. So the numbers don't back him up, but he continuously tells this lie. Save lives. It's going to save countless lives, right? But we know that people that are here illegally without documentation commit far less crimes than people that are here legally.
And how do the drugs come in, Will?
Oh, they come in through they come through, again, the legal entry port of entry. But they come in through that port of entry through vehicles.
So, wait. You mean like vehicles that like have the ability to Knight Rider over the wall?
Knight Rider.
Like Knight Rider. You know, or Dukes of Hazzard. That's how they coming over. They're just...
Now they're using the regular roads.
But remember, Trump did say that these immigrants have the most sophisticated cars. Remember that shit? Maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe they have that like that new that kit car, the vehicles that have the like capability that Kit had.
Yeah.
Jump over things.
No, I don't think so. I think it's not anything spectacular. I think they're just regular cars, man. I think they're just regular cars. I mean, maybe they have some compartments. Maybe they have some compartments. You know, but I don't think anything that's like Knight Rider-ish.
AC, don't be selling Mexican short, because you see how they be doing with the hydraulics, dog.
I do.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
You see how they be doing with the hydraulics, so they could.
So they got some technology.
They got some technology that would allow them to jump cars over the wall. I'm just saying, man.
All right. So also on Saturday, and this was before President Trump made his speech at the White House, he spoke with reporters about how effective a border has been in one Texas city. So there's the video on that.
Everybody knows that walls work. You look at different places, they put up a wall, no problem. You look at San Antonio, you look at so many different places. They go from one of the most unsafe cities in the country to one of the safest cities immediately.
There's some problems with that statement. Not just one.
There's
multiple problems with that statement. First of all, San Antonio is not exactly a border city. San Antonio is approximately about 150 miles away from the border. But even if he is talking about San Antonio doesn't have a border wall.
But like,
there's no border wall.
Let's just take his words at face value. He said that there has been pretty much good results behind the wall.
Right.
That's what he said. He said you see with crime going down.
Yes. You would see immediate results.
But no, but he wasn't saying, he was saying that he said that has happened.
It already has.
He said that has already happened.
Right.
We've seen success with walls.
Right.
Since crime has gone down immediately. So what if crime is going down right now, like he's saying, and the crime rate going down, and that's the kind of, he sees that as some sort of success, and we're seeing success based on what he just said, then why would we need a wall? Why would we need another wall? If the wall currently is doing the job he said it was doing. That's kind of what he said. He said, see, when the wall was constructed, walls work, and San Antonio's proof. Okay, then if San Antonio's proof that walls work, then shouldn't the wall we have now do the job?
The non-existent?
The non-existent wall. I'm just saying, like, if you just take it at face value, which is kind of like sends you into this illogical world.
So there's some suggestion that he actually wasn't talking about San Antonio. He actually misspoke, and he was actually referencing El Paso, which he did not say. So here again is President Trump looking stupid. But hey, he meant El Paso, even though he hasn't stated that. But let's just assume that he said that he meant El Paso, because in recent days he had talked about El Paso. I believe this was on January 14th. Trump said, in El Paso, it was one of the most dangerous cities in the country. A wall was put up. It went from being one of the most dangerous cities in the country to one of the safest cities in the country overnight. Overnight. Does that tell you something? So, he is correct that there is, if you want to consider it a wall, fine. But more so, it's like fencing. There's a barrier for about, about a 57-mile stretch in San Antonio, separating it from Mexico. So, but let's get into these claims about it happening overnight. El Paso was one of the most dangerous cities. And then when you put the border wall up, hey, now it's one of the safest cities, all right? So all of that is false, okay? So construction of that 57-mile fence, not a 30-foot wall, but construction of that fence occurred back in mid-2008, okay? So in the 3 years leading up to it, between 2005 and 2007, El Paso had the third lowest violent crime rate among 35 U.S. cities with more than a population of 500,000, okay? So, El Paso has been known as a safe city for a very long time, and it's actually despite its location, okay? So right across the border, right across the way from El Paso, which is considered a safe city is Ciudad Juarez, which is not only one of the most dangerous cities in Mexico, but one of the most dangerous cities across the world. Kidnappings, gang violence, all of this.
Somehow, all of that does not, through some, I don't know, reverse osmosis, like getting through the wall, carry over to El Paso.
It doesn't seem to.
Again, this is another one of those situations where let's just take it at face value, right? Let's take what he says at face value and see if it makes sense. He is saying that the fence that is there now is doing the job.
Yep.
Again, without realizing he's saying it. Even if we take his word at face value, he is saying that the fence that is there now was constructed and it did the job.
Across the way from one of the most dangerous cities in all of the world.
If he's going to say that the fence that was constructed on that part of the border between those two cities caused crime to go down significantly, he is ultimately saying that this current wall we have is a significant deterrent to said crime.
So, my man, I got to ask you, why the hell we need a 30-foot border wall, concrete or steel, if the fencing is taking care of the problem?
And he said it. Trump said it himself. So I believe him.
So you believe him. But again, this is a crisis, right? It's a crisis.
Yeah.
Now, it wouldn't surprise you to hear Democrats say that. You know, it wouldn't surprise you to hear many Democratic representatives in Congress, many Democratic senators in Congress say the same thing, that like it's not a crisis, nothing's going on. You know, we need to shore up the fencing. Maybe we need some more Border Patrol agents, possibly.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Maybe some drone usage, some higher technology to actually conduct tests on these cars to make sure that drugs aren't coming into the country. Stuff like
Nancy
that.
Pelosi kind of she was picked on for saying electronic dogs. She was kind of drugged through the mud for saying that, but. You know, there are electronic dogs. That technology does exist, and that's what she was talking about. But
so again,
throw that in there right quick.
Democratic Congress members, they all say the same thing. It's not a crisis, right? But it's interesting that there is a Republican U.S. representative that is actually saying the same thing as well as them. So U.S. Representative Will Hurd disagrees that there is a crisis along the border. He called it, quote, a myth. Okay, he said it was a myth. And that's his words, not mine. He also said, so he had an interview with Rolling Stone, and he labeled the suggestion of a border crisis as a myth, like I said, and he said the solution of a border wall is, quote, a third century solution to a 21st century problem, which I think a lot of people would agree with as well. He actually, Representative Hurd, he represents about 800 miles of the border.
I was about to ask you that. I was about to ask you where does...
Yeah, he's a Texas representative.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, he's a Texas representative. He represents about 800 miles of the border, and that includes the city of El Paso. All right, so he said in a statement, he said in this interview, he said, when you think of a crisis, that means people are afraid to leave their homes, right? But he said El Paso is one of the safest cities in the United States of America. The same can be said about Del Rio, Presidio, and Eagle Pass, places I represent. So, again, it's interesting. I mean, it's not interesting that you would hear this kind of narrative coming from Democratic representatives and senators, but when it's coming from somebody in the Republican Party, in which, like, this whole time, we have seen the vast majority of them champion exactly what President Trump wants, and that's that border wall. We've seen them have his back and support this wall.
I do think it's interesting, but it's important to note where this representation is coming from, where this opinion is coming from, like what part of the state he represents, and what state he represents. It's right on the border,
right?
You know, so I think that, like, you would think that, like, his voice would matter.
Yeah, it should probably carry a little bit more weight than people. And when you really think about it, the southern border is about 2,000 miles. It's like 1,900 to 2,000 miles, right? Yeah. If he is the representative of 800 miles along the border, I would argue that he represents most of the border compared to anybody else that is a representative in Congress. So he would probably know more than anybody else in Congress what the actual situation is along the border and if it is a crisis or not.
I don't think Trump would be talking to him anytime soon. Or Trump would be like interested in getting any kind of advice from him anytime. He is not going to get the microphone, I guarantee you. I'm just
because it destroys his message. It destroys
his message. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean a lot. Let's say if he was a congressman and represented I don't know, Montana,
right,
Iowa.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Ohio. It wouldn't mean as much.
Right.
It would still be valid opinion, but
it would make sense.
It would
but
make sense.
That he's actually the representative there.
But he actually has a lived experience that kind of contradicts Trump's agenda.
And his actual constituents are in his ear, saying that hey, it's actually not a crisis here. So far be it to say, of course, he is not with Trump's approach on this issue. He's not with the whole border wall. He doesn't agree with the whole crisis approach. And this is per the USA Today. Instead, he proposes increasing security at points of entry where the bulk of illegal drugs come into the United States, improve technology along the border to create a smart fence, and a Marshall Plan for Central America to address the root problems that are leading so many migrants to make the dangerous journey north.
Wait a second.
Damn.
Wait
this is a Republican, man.
So wait. This is a Republican.
This is a Republican.
Is not for the wall.
Not for the wall. And actually talking common sense.
It's common sense. So. Remember how Donald Trump has characterized the Democrats that don't want the wall? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Remember what he said? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That, they don't care about crime.
Don't care about crime.
They don't care about the safety of United States citizens.
Open border party.
Open border party, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't this kind of destroy that narrative? But if the same thing applies to the Democratic Party as a whole, wouldn't it apply to this Republican?
It should. And see, maybe they just really want to cast that dude aside. And they don't really, like you said, they don't want to give him the mic. And he has voted with the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives to open the government, to fund the government. So, again, this is somebody that I would think should have a voice on the national stage, being that he does represent the largest stretch of the border comparable to any other representative.
You see what Trump is doing? You see, like kind of, I would call it Trump fallout, or the consequences of Trump are. This mug is kind of forcing, I wouldn't say forcing, but kind of, I guess, influencing Republicans to activate their common sense.
Common sense, man.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of weird.
He actually addressed, hey, we actually need to take a look at the root causes of why people are fleeing their countries in Central America and actually deal with that.
I know that makes you laugh, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh.
This mugs are like, damn, I got to straighten up now. I can't have Trump out here making the party look bad, man. I got to straighten up, man.
Man. All right. So let's move on to something that is connected to this, though. So in the midst of all this bickering and political grandstanding, people are still being negatively impacted by this partial government shutdown. So the federal workers, even the people that are not federal workers but are contracted by the federal government, it's a real crisis for them. These people cannot afford to put gas in their cars. They can't afford to go to the doctor. They can't afford to
pay their mortgage,
pay mortgages or rent, pay for prescription costs. Like, that's an actual crisis, right? So I've seen multiple polls that suggest that most people in this country actually do blame the President Trump, for this shutdown. And rightfully so, because he is the one that is actually holding up the legislation to fund the government.
And he said it.
And he said it. He said he's going to own it.
Even if he didn't say it, he would still own it. But the simple fact that he said it kind of solidifies that it is on him.
Right. Now, I've also seen multiple interviews with some of these federal workers, and they have stated that they're upset, of course, no doubt. But they're putting the blame on everybody. They put the blame on the entire system of government. So they don't just hold disdain for the president. They hold disdain for Congress, and that means Democrats and Republicans. And I can understand that they are directly impacted by this shutdown, directly impacted, right? So I understand that they are emotional and upset about this. But if you're actually objectively analyzing this situation, then you would have to put it on the shoulders of President Trump, because like you said, first of all, he said it was him. And we know it's him because Congress members have actually done their job multiple times. They have actually voted to fund the government multiple times, but guess who's holding it up?
Both parties,
yes.
Democrats and Republicans,
have
come together.
They've come together and voted to fund the government, but who's holding it up essentially is Donald Trump. Mitch McConnell is involved too, but essentially it's Donald Trump because he's telling Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, hey, I'm not going to sign it, so you might as well not even present it. You might not even hold a vote. So this is squarely on President Trump's shoulders, right? So again, if you're not directly involved, and I can understand them being emotional and just blaming everybody, but if you're not directly involved and if you're actually taking a good look at this objectively, you would put it on who's to blame here, and that's President Trump.
It's Trump and the advisors behind how he is approaching this.
Right. Now, we understand that. Many people understand that. I would expect Democratic members of Congress to understand that as well.
Especially, well, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just spill the beans.
Yeah. But I would expect, again, like the federal workers that are being interviewed and they're emotional and blaming everybody. I understand them. But people in government, I like if you're being objective and if you're being truthful, I wouldn't understand if you put it on everybody.
Sounds like you're leading up to something, Will.
I am leading up to
something. You're leading
something.
up to someone.
Yeah. So Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who is a Democrat from Hawaii, and she just recently announced her intention to seek the presidency in 2020. She appeared on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday, and she blamed Democrats and Republicans for the shutdown and for refusing to compromise. So we have a clip from that appearance.
Trump is putting forward different ideas. Yeah. Democrats have put forward different ideas. But the problem here and why we're in a situation where over 800,000 federal employees are going for now a month without a paycheck and suffering as a result is because of the unwillingness to actually just sit down and work through the details that each side is putting forward, knowing that neither side is going to get everything that they need. That's what needs to happen here.
So I understand you don't support the offer that President Trump made, but what's your counter offer? I mean, if you want people to sit down and deal, what do you think should happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think it should be done on television. These negotiations shouldn't be done on television. We need to have adults coming together, sitting down and negotiating the issues that have to be addressed. The issues of border security, the issues of making sure that we've got the resources dedicated to where they need to be, and the issues that are still outstanding regarding immigration and immigration reform. Some of them have been talked about, dealing with our dreamers who are still facing uncertainty, who still have no permanency to their futures here in the only home that they've ever known, as well as the issue of TPS. I think there are a whole host of issues that need to be addressed, but they cannot be addressed so long as both sides are not willing to come together and have a real conversation and hash out the differences and come up with something that works best for the American people.
That's interesting, though, because you sound like you're not just blaming President Trump on this, you're also blaming Democratic leaders in Congress.
Both sides have completely hardened their positions and are unwilling to come together and work out the differences, and that's the problem here.
Is it just me, or is this whole thing just not that complicated? If person A initiates a shutdown because they can't obtain funding for X, then the shutdown is on person A, right? It's that simple.
It's that simple.
Now, did the Dems at any point in time agree to funding a wall? I asked you that question.
During this shutdown or before?
During this shutdown.
No.
What did they agree to?
Well, they agreed to fund the government.
Right. So they agreed to fund the government, but at some point they were like, let's test Trump out and see if he takes this deal. We'll give you a little bit of money for your wall.
The 1.3?
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of
1.3.
money.
Okay.
But we're going to need some protections.
And that was for border
That
security.
was for the border security.
Right.
So Democrats were fine with that.
Right.
Now, who is the real pin in this grenade other than Trump? Who can blow this thing up if they wanted to right now?
Mitch McConnell?
Oh, yeah. Oh, ding, 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 ding. So, yeah, he can blow this thing up anytime he wants to. The Democrats really have no say in this, essentially, and why there's this stall in the process. What I did notice is that Tulsi Gabbard had a lot of criticisms for both parties.
Yeah.
And did not respond directly to a question. Was it Jake Tapper?
Right.
He asked
About what the counter proposal
about
was.
first of all, you're running for president, so don't give me this bullshit about this shouldn't be negotiated in public. You are fucking running for president. That seemed like a very sly way of getting away from talking about it. And actually, to me, it illustrated what I think she was trying to do, and Jake Tapper trying to get her out of that. And it looked like she was bug dancing. She was bug dancing for this both sidisms type bullshit, and trying to fall in the middle in a situation where that actually isn't called for. Sometimes that's actually a legitimate way to approach it. But I don't think this is that situation. You see what I'm saying?
Again, you said this is an individual that's running for president in 2020 now. Now, you know our stance. We have much contempt. We have much disagreement with the Democratic Party. I mean, we talk about the Democratic Party many times, and again, we have many criticisms of that. On this issue, we don't, because we understand that it's Donald Trump that is holding up this process. It is Mitch McConnell that is holding up this process. They want this border wall, and there's no rationale behind it. At least there's no legitimate, logical rationale behind it, because it's not going to serve the intended purpose. It's not going to do what they say it's going to do, right? So it's a complete waste of money. So I'm completely with the Democratic Party and saying that, no, we're not going to back down. We're not going to cave in. No, we're not going to support this vanity project. Tulsi Gabbard, in trying to just stay in the middle, just straddle that fence, is trying to put the blame on the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Again, she, at the beginning of this conversation, said that she would not take the deal offered by President Trump on Saturday. She would not take the deal. So why would she have contempt for the Democratic Party and say that both parties they've hardlined their positions and they will not negotiate with one another now?
Think about that. She said she would not take the deal and then said that they're taking a hardline position. Those two things contradict one another.
Exactly.
I understand people's frustration with the Democratic Party, because this how she answered the question had nothing to do with her being frustrated with the system or both parties. Her answer was a direct reflection of how she feels about the Democratic Party. And I understand that frustration. But people have become so toxic towards them that they'll find a way to be against them even when they're right. There's no need to bash Dems on something phony and truncated when there's a laundry list of grievances that we can illustrate.
Right. There's many criticisms that you can have about the Democratic Party. And we talk about it, we've been talking about it for over 2 years. But to create some type of controversy and include them in it and say yeah, they're just as responsible as the Republicans. Oh, you're being phony. You're being absolutely phony, especially in the same interview in which you say, well, Trump's offer, I definitely wouldn't take it. No, I wouldn't take it either. So what the hell are you saying then? It's a bad offer. I wouldn't take it. So I guess by you saying you wouldn't take it, I guess you would be leading to say that the Democratic Party shouldn't take it. But they're so hardline that they won't negotiate. We understand that President Trump, this is a take it or leave it type of situation. President Trump wants his $5.7 billion. The Democratic Party is saying, no, sorry, we're not. No, first of all, we're not going to be held hostage. Okay. Second of all, you shouldn't be holding these 800,000 plus government workers hostage as well. Open up the government, and then we can try to negotiate. That's the first step. All right, we're not going to negotiate while you're holding people hostage. So that's their position. I think that's a pretty good hardline position. To not have that hardline position, you would be saying that the Democratic Party should pay for a wall.
Oh, see, that's I'm glad you went there, because that's where I was going next. Because if she's suggesting that the Democrats should just cave, which it sounds like she's suggesting, what is she saying? Whether she realizes it or not. What is she saying? What is she saying? They should just cave. So therefore, she's kind of loosely an approver of a fucking wall.
But at the same time saying that she wouldn't approve of the deal.
At the same time. See, that's why when someone is caught in a contradiction, then you know what they're trying to do.
They're dancing.
They're dancing. When they're caught in a contradiction, she wasn't ready for that. She wasn't ready to actually have like questions. Like, she wasn't ready to take questions on this issue, and it obviously shows here. And to me, I'm a little disappointed in Tulsi, because she either one, there's only really two places you can go with this. She's either one, doesn't know what the fuck is going on, or two, being disingenuous. You have two of those choices. I think she's being disingenuous, because I think we know what's going on.
Right.
We know that both parties have already come together and pretty much decided what they wanted to do. Yeah. We've talked about that all the time. We've talked about that for the last couple of weeks. So for Tulsi Gabbard to say that like the parties need to come together and work, like that's what they have already done. It's Mitch McConnell who's kind of tying this up and holding it up, and Donald Trump and his advisory committee. So I don't understand like where she's getting that from. Like, there's already been a deal made. So that's what tells me she's just fucking tap dancing. And it's not the right kind of tap dancing too. And just from the responses that I've seen and the various articles I've read based on this interview and her comments, she fucked up, yo. No, she fucked up. She fucked up, because I guarantee you. I was like, first of all, you don't fuck up this early. Not so soon after you announce your presidential run. You don't fuck up this early. Like,
not on something that is illogical.
This is gonna screw her up in the damn primaries.
Because again, she's gonna, like it or not, she's gonna need help from the Democratic Party if she actually wants to
be a viable candidate.
Yeah, exactly. If she actually wants that nomination, she's gonna need a little bit of help. In an area where the Democratic Party they actually did not deserve to be criticized, she did that just to straddle that fence and make it seem as though she's neutral or she's balanced. She's fair and balanced. She can actually take an objective look and not be partisan.
Basically say she's being fake.
She's being fake as hell.
And if you just kind of I was going to say, if you go over that interview with a fine-tooth comb, you'd be able to see that too, but you don't even have to do that. And she just made it plain. And I'm just, this is a misstep. This is a severe misstep really, really early. And just like I said, from the responses that I've seen, it actually doesn't even matter who these responses came from, but almost every website that I went to and looked at the comments under the article that featured her comments and her responses in this interview, yo, people was like, you just lost the primary. Look, like, people just saying stuff like that all the time. Like, damn, what? Like,
look, I didn't think that there was a chance that she was actually going to, get the nomination anyway. I just don't, she's known, and definitely Republicans know her, and conservatives. She's been on conservative programs going back to 2015, appearing in many shows. But as far as Democrats across the country, I wonder how many people actually know her and know about her enough to actually vote for her. So I didn't consider her, one of the leading candidates. I didn't. This in conjunction with the other stuff that we have talked about in reference to Tulsi Gabbard, I'm ready to say I'm off. I'm not considering Tulsi Gabbard in the primaries. If she somehow does come away with the nomination, definitely I'll consider her. I mean, of course, if she's going up against Donald Trump.
Oh, no doubt.
Of course.
Oh,
but
no
in
doubt.
the primaries, I am not considering Tulsi Gabbard for president anymore. This is done for me. I'm off the train. Sorry. That's it. That's it. That's it. She's fake. All right. So anyway, let's go to another presidential candidate, Democratic presidential candidate in 2020. In a long-expected announcement, Democratic Senator Kamala Harris announced that she intended to run for president in 2020, and she did this on Twitter on Monday. So this was the video that she posted to Twitter.
Truth, justice, decency, equality, freedom, democracy. These aren't just words. They're the values we as Americans cherish, and they're all on the line now. The future of our country depends on you and millions of others lifting our voices to fight for our American values. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. I'm running to lift those voices, to bring our voices together. So please join me in Oakland on Sunday, January 27th, and go to KamalaHarris.org to join our campaign. Let's do this together. Let's claim our future for ourselves, for our children, and for our country. I'll see you in Oakland.
She dancing too? She dancing too, man? You feeling it? You feeling her? I see that. You feeling her? You feeling her? I feel it too, man. And she even announced that I believe her campaign headquarters, she's gonna have two of them, I believe. One in Baltimore, Maryland, and one in Oakland as well. Two impoverished communities, high black populations. And she did announce on Monday as well, which Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So she might be doing something here. I'm not entirely sure. Not entirely sure.
I mean, the beat was kind of hype.
It was kind of
The beat was kind of hype. Yeah. It looked like she was trying to be...
I want to know who the producer is.
Trying to be catchy and edgy and just, new and bold.
Yeah.
I went to the campaign website. Mm-hmm. Something missing.
What was that?
Actual platform overview.
Oh, really?
But them damn donation buttons was highly visible. Boy, them donation buttons was like, bow.
Hey, well, see, she's been a senator since 2016.
So we should just know, right?
We
should
already
just
know what she's about.
I mean, like on the Meet Kamala part of the website, it kind of like vaguely highlighted some things, but there was really no platform overview, like legitimate one on the site.
Right.
Like as far as I know, wasn't this announcement planned for a while? For her to,
oh yeah.
This is like we already knew that she was going to announce it.
Long away.
Like long away. So like you already know you're announcing your presidential candidacy, right? On this day, this was planned.
She was on a book tour. She was on The View.
A book tour. Mm-hmm. So why not have something ready on your website? You already know that after you make such a big announcement, people are going to flock to your website. So why not actually have something concrete that they can attach to you? You see what I'm saying?
She wants them to attach some money to her.
Like I said, them donation buttons was like popping.
Kamala Harris. Look, she is. It's significant. She is the first black candidate to announce for 2020. She is also a woman as well, and I mean, she would make I think the fourth woman now to announce.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth noticing. Kamala Harris is viewed as an establishment type figure with, I don't know if they are genuine progressive leanings or not, but in some of her decisions, you can say that they were progressive decisions, or certain statements that she have made have been progressive. I definitely want to hear more, even though we know a lot about her. So in California, she hails from California, and she used to be a DA in San Francisco, and there is, there's a lot of criticism about her work, but you know, there's also some, I guess, some positives that people take away from her work as well. Now, on the negatives, when she was a DA, she didn't take a position on the 3 strikes law.
Now, like, I'm not defending her, but I know why. She
Yeah.
didn't take a position because she actually took part in the construction
and writing
of
of
writing the law. So
Right.
that's why she kind of recused herself from that.
Right. It still looked bad.
It still looked bad.
It still
because
looked
if you took part in it, you should actually stand by it.
Right. On the positive, when she was the DA of San Francisco, she created a diversionary program for first-time offenders charged with drug offenses. So, I mean, yeah, that can definitely be looked at as a positive. In no way would I say that she was like a progressive DA like the Philadelphia DA, Larry Krasner.
Yeah.
No way in shape or form was she like that.
Nothing really like
remarkable.
Nothing that like speaks to like the concept of transformative justice.
No.
Like radical transformative justice.
She became the Attorney General in California, and she defended the death penalty, even though she said it was against her personal beliefs. She felt like, as the Attorney General of California, she had to defend it. She had to uphold that. Also, and you know what? This was one thing that I wanted to highlight, because at the beginning of her little campaign intro video, whatever, you saw words flash across the page.
Yep.
And there was one word I wanted to highlight. It was justice, right?
Justice.
So that brings me to Stephen Mnuchin.
I knew you were going there.
So Stephen Mnuchin, most would say that he was guilty of some banking crimes. Most,
I think if you look at the case.
Yeah. Most would say that, I think.
There was something there.
Yeah, there was something. I think most would say that Kamala Harris had him dead to rights, too. That it was pretty much an open and shut case. She could have gone after him, but she passed. She passed.
She didn't want to deal with the political consequences.
Right.
There was probably been a lot of fallout because of that, because Steve Mnuchin has a lot of connections. So it wouldn't just be about Steve Mnuchin, it would be about everybody connected to him. And she didn't have the backbone to stand up in that situation, because she did not want to deal with the political consequences. She wanted to remain in her position and be confident that her position was not going to be threatened. So that's why I think it's just a slap in the face for her to announce her presidency on Martin Luther King Day, because that's not something that he would have done.
Right.
He pretty much set popularity and notoriety and, like, I guess, positions aside to be unpopular and just kind of operate with moral greatness.
Martin Luther King Jr. died for what he believed in. Martin Luther King Jr.
He paid the ultimate price. He paid the
representing.
He paid the ultimate price. He paid
exactly.
So it's like, so basically we're showing that she really doesn't have a civil rights or social justice record.
No moral courage.
So announcing her presidency on MLK Day just seems like
misplaced.
It just seems like an empty gesture.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like to me it's real slimy, because she's like kind of using the heightened energy, like from this ceremonial acknowledgement we have on this day, to galvanize support for herself. Because by doing that, but what is she suggesting? If you're going to suggest a presidential run on Martin Luther King Day, what are you suggesting? That the essence of who you are and what you represent somehow ties into the legacy of Martin Luther King.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, my ideals as a candidate and as a president is going to be an extension of that. That's the message. When you do that on a day like that, that's the kind of message you're sending.
But her history suggests something completely different.
Oh, different.
So, needless to say, we're not on the Kamala Harris 2020 train or anything like that. I don't believe she's going to be the worst candidate, but I certainly don't believe she's going to be the best.
Hell no.
All right, so let's go to the Supreme Court. Yeah. All right, so the Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to temporarily implement its bigot ban, preventing transgender individuals from serving in the military. The reason why it's a temporary decision is because the Supreme Court did not weigh in on the merits of the case. They will allow the legality of the policy to work through the lower courts. So as you can remember back in, well, before I say that, normally the Supreme Court does not operate this way, okay? So again, they did not weigh in on the merits of the case because it's still working its way through the lower courts, right? So normally it would have to finish going up through the lower courts before the Supreme Court actually takes the case in any form or fashion. So after Trump announced that transgender individuals were not permitted to serve in the military in July of 2017, a court battle ensued. And that led to multiple federal judges blocking the policy from being implemented. In November of 2017, Judge Gaillard ruled that the military had to allow transgender recruits to start enlisting by January 1st, 2018. Now, just a few months ago, in November, Solicitor General Noel Francisco urged the Supreme Court justices to weigh in on the case, saying that the lower court's ruling blocked the policy that's, quote, necessary to place the Department of Defense in the strongest position to protect the American people. That is what led the justices, and when I say the justices, of course, I mean the conservative justices, to actually weigh in on this and say that, you know what, okay, we're going to allow the administration to temporarily block these people from serving in the military, even though it goes against precedent.
That's discrimination, dog.
Yes, very
Just to put it
blatantly, very blatantly.
And it's kind of using the same, I guess, talking point as a backdrop to justify it. The whole, protect American people.
Yes.
Similar to, I guess, the justification behind the push for the wall. It's the same. It's the same kind of lie. It's the same kind of lie. We got to protect the American people. But what is being suggested here? That individuals who are transgender cannot do the job.
Yes.
That's what they're suggesting, and quite simply, they're opening themselves up for a lawsuit.
Yeah, and it's already been a lawsuit. It's already been a lawsuit. It's just that it hasn't made its way all the way up to the Supreme Court yet. It's in the lower court. But there have been multiple federal judges, like I stated earlier, that have blocked this because from the statements that we have read and have reported on in the past, they don't see that this is constitutional, and they don't see how the administration's case, or they don't see that the administration is making their case saying that letting these transgender individuals serve in the military puts the safety of America at risk, or speaks to how they are not qualified to do their job properly.
Because, see, you have to kind of look at the undertones of it. There's a whole bunch of suggestions that are being made. So it probably surrounds this kind of flawed idea of masculinity, number one. And it also disacknowledges or doesn't acknowledge that, the kind of work they do. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't, this is people are always, probably picturing, some transgender person getting into some sort of bayonet battle with somebody.
Right.
They have probably was that movie 300? You know what I'm saying? They probably have that kind of image of war and mugs just fighting hand-to-hand combat, some sort of Hollywood type simulation of war. Right. When that's not the case. I don't understand why somebody who is transgender wouldn't be just as capable of, I don't know, intelligence gathering, or let's say being a nurse in the military, or we have a friend, and he dealt with the food part.
Yeah.
He dealt
food
with
inspection.
Food inspection. So there's so many different jobs in the military that really don't have anything to do with gender or our perceptions of it. It just doesn't even make logical sense.
Like you said, like you were just saying, this ban, this transgender ban, i.e. it's a bigot ban, okay? That's all it's about. It has nothing to do with these current or potential service members and their abilities to perform their duties. It has nothing to do with physical or mental fitness. It has nothing to do with this being a disruption to the safety of America and our armed forces. It has nothing to do with that. President Trump used that word, disruption, and it's absolutely a fallacy. Okay, he also talked about I guess the cost of these transgender individuals, if they, their doctor's costs, if they're going through a transition or whatever. First of all, it's not that many of them. Okay, first of all, it's not that many of them. And we've already looked at the cost before, and we talked about that months and months ago, how it's really not that substantial anyways. Okay?
So that's just some sort of like excuse that they're using.
So
especially in the face of spending so much already.
Exactly. Getting more money than asked for the military budget. So the Pentagon spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Carla Gleason, she said in a statement, "As always, we treat all transgender persons with respect and dignity. DOD's proposed policy is not a ban on service by transgender persons. It is critical that DOD be permitted to implement personnel policies that it determines are necessary to ensure the most lethal and combat effective fighting force in the world. DOD's proposed policy is based on professional military judgment and will ensure that the U.S. Armed Forces remain the most lethal and combat effective fighting force in the world."
You know what I got? I think you kind of perceive that the same way I do, and that's just a more button-up way of being bigoted.
Yes,
that was
a whole bunch of words that said nothing.
Whole bunch of like technical jargon and kind of intellectual, like just blah blah blah.
And here's another one too. This is from a spokesperson for the Justice Department. Her name is Carrie Kupek. And she said in the statement, "Due to the lower courts issuing nationwide injunctions, our military had been forced to maintain a prior policy that poses a risk to military effectiveness and lethality for over a year. We will continue to defend in the courts the authority and ability of the Pentagon to ensure the safety and security of the American people." Again,
more intellectual bigotry.
We have to secure the safety of the American people. So this is a crisis too. Not just the border. This is a crisis too. Letting transgender individuals actually serve in the military is a crisis. The American people are much less safe if transgender people are actually occupying various positions in the military. Yeah, okay. Yeah, y'all are not bigots. They're not bigots at all. Yeah. Sure.
Because, if they were really genuine about kind of illustrating how much danger we are in, they would kind of provide us with data.
Specific bullet points.
Yes.
Like, we need, reference material.
We do need reference
Times,
material.
dates, situations, like, what happened? What hampered our ability to be safe? Like, what did this particular individual did that another individual wouldn't or could have done?
Basically, we need some, sample sizes.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need a kind of a case study.
Yeah, we need something. We need specific, but I don't think we're going to get that, though.
No.
We're just going to get a lot of
We're going to get
about,
intellectual blah, blah,
yes,
blah.
Yeah. We got to protect the American people. That's discrimination. We got to protect the American people. Well, that's bigoted. We got to protect the American people.
It doesn't matter that it's bigoted.
Okay.
We just got to, protect the American people.
Okay. All right. Move that out the way a little bit. Yeah, all right. All right, so let's go to Laquan McDonald. All right, so former Chicago officer Jason Van Dyke was sentenced on Friday for murdering 17-year-old Laquan McDonald in 2014, bringing an end to years of pain, protesting, and demands of justice. In the end, Van Dyke was sentenced to 81 months in prison, which is 6 years and 9 months. Prosecutors were requesting at least 18 years in prison. But Van Dyke could have been sentenced to up to 96 years, but was not. 6 years, 9 months. Van Dyke will be eligible for parole after serving half of his term, which is just under 3.5 years.
Man, that is just harsh, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's just so harsh, man.
Not even 3.5 years?
For just
snuffing out a young life?
I'm just telling you, that just seems like overkill, man.
Yeah.
That seems like overkill for just shooting someone who was running away from you and then filling their body with lead, man.
Yeah, man.
That just doesn't seem like such an egregious offense to deserve that much time.
I saw his attorney speak to the media afterwards, and he described Jason Van Dyke as being happy. He said this was the first time since this whole ordeal had been ongoing that he actually saw him kind of relieved.
Well, what does that tell you, Will? Like, when someone who is indicted, charged with anything and goes through a trial and is going to face time in jail, and their sentence is issued and joy or happiness overcomes them, what does that tell you?
It usually tells me that the penalty, or not the penalty, because it could be acquittal.
Could be acquittal. Yeah.
Just the decision is more than that they could ask for.
Oh yeah, like they were happy with that because
Yes.
it could have been much worse. So
could have been much
he knows he got off.
Oh yeah,
Pretty fucking easy.
Again,
but
he faced 96 years in prison.
well, wait, but he's happy with the outcome. But does his wife think that he got off easy?
I think she's happy too.
Oh, she's happy, but she claims that he paid the ultimate price. That's what she claimed.
She said the ultimate
She
price.
said that, yeah, he paid the ultimate price. And I'm like, the ultimate price?
I think you're talking about the wrong person.
I think you're talking about the wrong person. Like, it may not have been the outcome that was desirable. I can understand that. But 6 months in prison and not being able to enforce law on the street, I don't think that qualifies as the ultimate price. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think that qualifies. Like, having to change professions. Oh my God, that's like death. Having to change professions, not be able to be a cop anymore and serve a little stint in jail. Like, that's not the ultimate price. Like, that to me, that illustrates some privilege right there. When his wife can kind of claim victimhood status after her husband is held accountable for something. And like, you've been out of shape about having to change careers. That's your concern.
Yeah.
Like, that's some privilege ass shit right there.
This happened on Friday, like I mentioned, and when I heard the news, unbelievable rage, and at the same time, unbelievable sadness at the same time. Very emotional, man, because I realized that this doesn't look like justice whatsoever. We know that it's not going to be 6 years and 9 months. We know with good behavior, yes, he's going to get out in less than 4 years. This is not justice. 17-year-old Laquan McDonald deserved more. He deserved to still be alive. So the judge in this case, the presiding judge in this case, whose name is Judge Vincent Gauguin, he very clearly showed Van Dyke mercy and found something redeemable about his character or his being. Now, I just think about the many times that Laquan McDonald's life was undervalued and deemed just worthless. It started with officer at the time, Jason Van Dyke, arriving on the scene and pumping Laquan McDonald's body full of 16 bullets. At a time when Laquan McDonald was not threatening anybody else, he was walking away from officers, but this officer, Jason Van Dyke, did not find anything redeemable about the soul of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald, so he shot him dead. Now, not only did he shoot him, like you said, not only did he shoot him while he was walking away, on the way down he was shooting him, and when he was laying motionless on the ground, he kept firing. So I think that was the first time in this situation where his life was undervalued, devalued, right? Now, another time I can think of is when Van Dyke's officers, his fellow officers, lied for him, tried to cover up the murder for him and suggest that Laquan McDonald was actually a threat and was coming towards them, right? So that's another case where Laquan McDonald was not shown mercy. His life was not valued. Another time was when it took 400 days for the evidence of this murder to actually come to the light of day. And that was only because a judge made the city uncover it. So then Mayor Rahm Emanuel and the Cook County State's Attorney, Anita Alvarez, and others as well, they sat on this information. They sat on this this evidence because they clearly did not value the life of Laquan McDonald. They deemed it so worthless that they were going to cover this up and try to just make it go away. It was exactly 400 days before we actually got to see this, right? And so now we come to the situation where this judge undervalues Laquan McDonald's life, and he decides that for killing that 17-year-old life, it's worth 6 years and 9 months in jail. Again, I wish that his life was deemed as valuable as it seems that Jason Van Dyke's is deemed.
Now, you went through all that, right? Now, if everyone involved in this case, from top to bottom, actually thought that Jason Van Dyke's actions were justified, what would be the need? Why would there be a need to cover up everything at each level? Do you see what I'm saying? That's what makes no sense. If Jason Van Dyke and his superiors, from top to bottom, thought that he did the right thing, there would be no need for anyone to cover it up.
No.
And I mean, I like how you, kind of highlighted how Laquan McDonald was, deemed less than valuable in regard to the situation. But I don't think we could kind of talk about this in isolation, from the broader issue. Because I think Laquan McDonald, regardless of his own character, regardless of what kind of life he led, he could serve as a symbol for how many people are devalued in society, in this society, and how that contributes to how law enforcement approaches them. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just about Laquan McDonald here. We can't just view this situation in isolation. You know what I'm saying? We do have to kind of like view it as some sort of kind of broader issue in regard to how law enforcement officers engage the public and certain citizens.
Okay, so you bringing that up, talking about law enforcement actions, right? Okay, now, I often hear that we need to be tough on crime, okay? We need to be tough on crime as to deter the potential actions of potential criminals, right? So this, in my opinion, does nothing to deter the actions of potential criminals and the potential criminal actions of law enforcement. So I think all this does is actually embolden officers to do exactly what they're going to do, to engage in criminal activity. Now, I'm not saying that, of course, and I hate to even throw this out there because I think it's stated way too often when you actually criticize police officers or law enforcement in general, you have to throw in this caveat of saying, I'm not talking about all police officers. That should just be a given. If you're a reasonable individual, if you're objective, then of course you're not talking about the whole institution of law enforcement. But for those that actually engage in this police misconduct and police brutality, or even killing a citizen criminally, I think all this does is show that there's going to be protection along the way. All the way up to sentencing, there's going to be a protection along the way. I think all this does, again, is all it does is embolden police officers to say that I'm going to have protection in some way, shape, or form. Maybe worst case scenario, I actually get to a trial. Like I actually get, convicted, I get to a trial. But it's not going to be as severe as like maybe somebody on the street that killed somebody. I'm definitely not going to get a sentence like that. So for me, all this does is it stands to benefit Jason Van Dyke, his family, and the institution of law enforcement. It definitely doesn't do anything to benefit Laquan McDonald or anybody else that is at the other hands of criminal police actions.
So if that is the reality, right, and that is the perception, like, how do they think, as members of law enforcement or as a kind of a criminal justice apparatus, how do they think the people will respond? Because if the people see them kind of getting off scot-free, not facing significant punishment for their actions, what is that going to do to public trust? And then what is that going to, like how are people who like feel vulnerable going to think?
Right.
There's going to be one, more animosity,
Right.
and two, there may be instances where, hey, the justice system, cannot accurately adjudicate these situations. So guess what? We're going to take things into our own hands and issue our own justice.
Correct.
Or our own form of justice, our own form of street justice, vigilante justice.
Right.
That's a possibility.
And that's always criticized, vigilante justice, right? Like, it's just, I'm a parent, right? I'm a parent, I'm an uncle, I'm a cousin, I'm a friend to multiple children who are black. And I'm scared out of my head. I'm scared out of my heart. I'm scared to death for these children. Because too many times I'm educated to the fact that in this country, in this world, the mere appearance of brown skin is threatening. And when something like that whenever something is perceived to be threatening, then you know the response to that could be fatal. So that's why I'm scared to death for these children. I can't always be there. I definitely can't always be there. And it's not like it can't happen to me. It can't happen to you. It can happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. It happened to Laquan McDonald, who, look, we understand that he had a knife in his hand. We understand that. We understand that there was a legitimate reason for the police to be there. Mm-hmm. Nobody's denying that whatsoever. But his life did not deserve to be snuffed out when he wasn't a threat to anybody. He deserved more, man.
Yeah, and the judge kind of solidified this idea that there are certain people who don't deserve anything.
Right. All right. Let's change gears a little bit. I wanted to highlight this, man, because we talked about this a few weeks ago and this actually references Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King Jr. Right?
Oh, Lord.
We talked about this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before.
I think it was the week before last.
It was the week before?
It was not last week. I don't believe so.
Well, recently we addressed a meteorologist in Rochester, New York, named Jeremy Capel, who was fired for saying, quote, Martin Luther King Jr. on air. And it was something that he said it was a mistake. It was something that he apologized profusely for. He appeared with his wife on a Facebook Live video, and you could see the pain. I mean, they were really trying. I mean, well, I don't believe she was talking, but he was just trying to really express that it was an honest mistake. He was just talking very fast, and that's.
He just had a coon slip up.
He had a coon. I never heard those words together like that. But he had a coon slip up. All right. And we also noted at the time that it had happened before. In 2010, Mike Greenberg of ESPN, when he was on the show Mike and Mike, he said the same thing in the same way. Martin Luther King immediately, fixing his mistake. He was not fired for it. He did apologize, but he did not, he didn't get fired for it. And there was another person, Joseph Smitherman, that said it, and I believe that was in 1965. He was the mayor of Selma, Alabama, and he was talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Being an agitator, an outside agitator. But he said...
That time I don't think it was a slip.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a slip up. I don't know if that was a slip up. But he said it as well, and it was on video, right? So we highlighted that, and it was like, man, I mean, like, if these are actual slip-ups, especially in the case of the guy they got fired, I mean, that's so... Man, I feel for him, because I mean, if that's a mess-up, my gosh, you got fired for that? That's crazy. It happened again.
The coon fairy strikes again. You say coon, ding. You say coon, ding.
It happened again. It happened again. So this time it happened last Thursday, okay? And this was in St. Louis, Missouri. News anchor Kevin Steincross of CNN affiliate KTVI made the same mistake. So in this situation, though, it wasn't the exact same. He said Martin Luther Coon Jr., I believe, and he didn't even fix his mistake.
He didn't fix it. He didn't even recognize it when he said it.
Apparently, he did not recognize it, and then it wasn't until a viewer actually contacted them and said, "Yo, you just said coon on TV. That's when he came on hours later on TV and made an apology. So this is the actual clip of it. It's only like a 5-second clip, but you will be able to hear, you know, his slip up.
Back here at home, a special event will get underway this morning to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life.
He said coon. He said coon. Martin Luther King. It did sound like he caught it, but he didn't have like enough, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I think he caught it in the moment, but couldn't do anything about it because the way he said it, he was like, Martin Luther King. You know, he's like, you know what I'm saying? In his head, he's like, I got to continue. Shit. And so he just continued. This is the way he said coon. It looked like it was like he caught it like too late. Martin Luther King Jr.
But either he, for me, either he did on purpose or he really did not know what he said. Because if you, like, it'd be one thing to just continue like, oh man, I already messed that up. But to say something like that, like if you noticed it, man, you would have to immediately rectify it. So the station is not going to implement any kind of disciplinary measures on him. So he's not going to get fired for it. It's just, man, it's, again, we noted at the time when we talked about it in referencing the meteorologist in Rochester, New York, how weird it seems that this would be a mistake that people are having. You know, it's happened the same way, and you know he didn't correct himself. But again, it's happened the same way that King turns into coon. Now I know, like on this show, like doing live shows, even when we did, you know, just recorded videos. Sometimes I slip up. You know, actually on the last broadcast that we did, I remember I went back and I looked at it, and I said world. No, I said country when I meant to say world. Like, there's many times, I know, you know, when you're talking about North Korea.
When I'm talking about North Korea, I say North Carolina.
Yeah,
and also when I'm supposed to pronounce a certain Young Turks host and co-founder's name correctly.
Always.
But see, that's some phonetics, and that's like obviously spelling.
Yeah,
so
right.
yeah, like we know about like saying words incorrectly, pronouncing words incorrectly, saying the completely incorrect word, wrong word.
Right.
But like,
this is
like some, I'm telling you, see, we can't explain it, right?
Nah.
Like I've said before, this is something we can't explain. So this is like some supernatural phenomenon, dog. I'm telling you, dog, this is some sort of...
It's got to be something, man. Because you know what? It goes even farther than what I thought. See, we highlighted the case, again, with Mike Greenberg, and then the mayor of Selma, Alabama, and then, of course, the meteorologist just a few weeks ago, and now this guy,
So
right?
it's really 4 cases, so you can't so
it's more.
That's what I'm saying. So if that's what we think. It's like, you know, coming into it thinking there's only 4 cases, you're like, I mean, people misspeak all the time, but see, there's a cover-up. So there's more.
There's 2 more that I found now, okay? So in 2005, it was a Las Vegas weather reporter named Rob Blair, and he did the same thing. He was talking about the weather would be in the mid-60s on, quote, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. He was fired from the station after working only about 3 months.
Coon King Jr.? Coon King, he said both?
Yeah, well, you know, he had
that's right, he fixed it.
Coon King.
So, okay,
like
so he's a part of the group that actually fixed it.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this guy, Mike Hernandez, this was in 2013 in San Antonio. He was a meteorologist. And he said of the holiday, Martin Luther Coon Day. So he's like this latest guy, Kevin Steincross, in which he did not immediately realize what he said. He later apologized, but he kept his job. There's something going on.
No. There's something going on. There's definitely something going on, man. I think there needs to be something. Like maybe we need to employ like some sort of Haitian priest and do like I suggested the last time we talked about this, and do like a collective, you know what I'm saying, coon demon exorcism, because the coon fairy done touched too many of these white boys, man.
Too many, man.
Too many, man. We need to do something about
it.
I'm just wondering,
it's
like,
only
so this guy, we have to step in. We have to step in so we can deal with this phenomenon.
Before we even came on, you were talking about like the possibility that like has this happened with black people?
I'm wondering. It has to have. I'm just saying, there's some like supernatural stuff going on. Maybe like the spirit of Martin Luther King coming back and just trolling mugs.
White dude.
And maybe he's the coon fairy. You say coon out of place. You say coon out of place. I don't know, man.
Let's get to at least one more thing. All right. So, okay. So last week on Thursday, we talked about a video, and it was about Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore from the Jimmy Dore Show. You know, he's connected to TYT, part of TYT. And it was a video that we made. Well, okay, so the criticism that we had about Jimmy Dore was his defense of Tulsi Gabbard. Okay, so he fielded a question on his, I believe it was his live show, and he fielded a question from a viewer. Excuse me. The viewer wanted to know about Tulsi Gabbard and her link to, you know, the Hindu right-wing government. Okay, and it was a legitimate question. It was something that she actually asked of Jimmy because she wanted some understanding. She wanted some further education on the matter. Jimmy Dore, in response to that, said that he couldn't care less about what's going on in India. You know, how does that affect me? You know, what should we send troops over there now? You know, look how you know we support all these other U.S. representatives, presidents, and we have affiliations with all these dictators and these horrible governments. Saudi Arabia. He mentioned Israel. So he at the end he said, why should we have a different litmus test of Tulsi Gabbard than say somebody like Barack Obama? So again, we made a video, and we cut that into a video and we uploaded it on YouTube on Saturday. Now,
what was that dislike to like ratio, dog? What was that ratio like?
As of last count, it was even. It was pretty even.
I figured it would be like that. And probably the video was, because we uploaded it like in isolation from the rest of the show.
Right.
So there was some stuff leading up to that segment.
That's correct.
So
yeah, some other stuff about Tulsi
there was
Gabbard.
some other stuff that we felt he was ignoring too. So a lot of people took that and act as if that was the only reason why we were criticizing Jimmy Dore, when it built up to that. Some other problematic issues we thought she had that he was ignoring.
But we still did believe that, him saying even the words like, I couldn't care less about what's going on in India, that's
damning enough, dog.
Exactly. That's not being progressive. So we did we titled the video,
trying to be a little edgy, you know what I'm saying? We were trying to be a little edgy.
We titled the video, Jimmy Dore abandons progressivism to support Tulsi Gabbard. Now, we got a lot of pushback on just the title alone. Right?
Clickbait. I was we just jag off progressive jag off host. We can joke, right? We were being sarcastic and joking, kind of like how Jimmy does.
Now, if you actually look at the title, we meant that, yes, for that moment and on that issue, he abandoned progressivism, and he definitely did. Now, some people took it like we were actually saying that he abandoned progressivism totally, and he's not a progressive anymore. He doesn't speak to anything that's progressive anymore. So they thought it was like clickbait, hey, blah, blah. So there was one individual that commented, and I was commenting back and forth with them. And there was one, like I said, that one was actually fair in his analysis. And he was like, he just communicated like, it kind of, it can come off the wrong way. Like you're saying that, like, in totality, he abandoned progressivism. So I appreciated the way his take was. And we actually did amend the video, and we changed the Jimmy Dore goes overboard to support Tulsi Gabbard. But again, the content of what we said remains the same, and we still have the same criticism for him in those words. Now, there were also some people that were commenting that were saying, well, hey, he fixed that later. He kind of explained what he meant.
But did he? Did he fix it later?
So we have the video from that portion, which he goes into his explanation of why he said he couldn't care less about India. So we'll play that, and then we'll discuss it.
I said the other day, I think last week on my live stream, I said that the people we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard, and I had just gotten through a bunch of smears on her that she was somehow a racist because David Duke tweeted out something, and the way people were disingenuously reporting that. And so I was in that kind of a heated up mood of all the people that were smearing her. And And so somebody asked on the line, what about India and Modi? And I'm like, and I said, I don't care about India. Oh boy, that triggered a lot of people. That triggered a lot of people. And what I meant was, it's like the United States is in bed with 70% of the world's dictators. Okay, so when we're that's what I meant by that. So if you're gonna, why are we using a special test for her? Every president's in bed with freaking murderous dictators. It's by definition. You become the president of the United States, you're in bed with Saudi Arabia, the exporters of Wahhabism all across the Middle East. What are you talking about? They're committing a genocide in Yemen right now with our help. We did Libya. What the fuck? There's someone worse than us? That was my point of all that. It wasn't that, so that was my point of all that. And so people using that to dismiss her, that's what and I was in a worked up emotional state. So
what I got from that is I was tired of the frivolous attacks on Tulsi. So I rage quit after a viewer asked me a legitimate question. Like, to me, this explanation makes him actually look worse, because he's telling me that he can't separate petty outrage from genuine critique. And he's using the word, I got emotional as some sort of cover, right? Because emotional doesn't have context and it doesn't explain why he did what he did. I'd use the word irrational. That's the word I'd use. And there's a reason why he got emotional, and that's because he is not objective when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard. And I just, like, all he did was double down. We were told that he kind of apologized.
Right.
He didn't apologize for shit.
Nope.
He doubled down, and he actually kind of minimized, like, what he said, everything he said. Like, he said, all I said was blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you said more than that. Every president. Since every president is in fact a dictator, that means
So, like, the problem I have, again, like, this makes Jimmy Dore look worse, in my opinion, your opinion as well. He said, again, he said you were in bed with 70% of the world's dictators. There is music. Okay. Whoever fixed that. I don't know how that got pressed. But anyway, so Jimmy Dore said that we're in bed with 70%. You might want to repeat what you said.
Okay.
You might want to repeat what you said.
I'll repeat what I just said, because apparently there was music.
Yeah.
So I'll repeat what I just said from the jump. But, like, basically what I was getting from Jimmy was that he's tired of the frivolous attacks on Tulsi. So I rage quit when a viewer asked me a legitimate question. And I just don't understand that logic. And it actually just makes him look worse, because what he's telling me is that he cannot distinguish between, like, petty outrage and, like, genuine and legitimate critique when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard. And he's using the word emotional to describe what he did, when I think that's just some sort of cover, like, for his irrationality. I think emotional is the wrong word, because it doesn't have any context and it doesn't explain anything. I'd use the word irrational, because he's not explaining why he got emotional. And it looks as if he got emotional because he couldn't be objective about somebody. He couldn't be objective about Tulsi Gabbard. And like, one thing that did stick out to me is he said, every president is in bed with a dictator. Every president is in bed with a dictator. That was his kind of, I guess, takeaway from that question he got from a viewer. And I'll ask Jimmy, if that's a problem for you and every president is in bed with a dictator and you have a problem with it, what you're telling us is you're okay with Tulsi Gabbard being in bed with a dictator.
Hell yeah. Exactly. He said the U.S. is in bed with 70% of the world's dictators. He also said, why do we have a, well, he didn't quote say this, but he said this on the last video as well that we showed last week. But he's saying that, yeah, why do we have a different test for Tulsi Gabbard? Why do we have a different litmus test for Tulsi Gabbard in comparison with everybody else? Like, you know, Obama or whoever else. What I want to focus on is the word we. Jimmy Dore is a progressive, right? His audience is progressive, right? I mean, that's the audience that I see. I mean, that's the audience that I see. That's the audience that he caters to, right? Is the progressive audience. So why would you be talking about we when many of we progressives don't really support President Obama or anybody that supports the world's dictators? Why would you talk about, like, again, you're making excuses for supporting Tulsi Gabbard. She has a link. She has an actual link to the far-right government in India, right? Modi. Now, I saw some people comment and say that, hey, you know what, actually, she just talked to him, you know, hey, you know, if you're actually going to, you know, conduct yourself, well, actually, if you're going to run for president, if you're going to be president, if you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to talk to other people. You're going to have to talk to other countries. You're going to have to talk to other dictators as well. Okay, let's say that you have to do that. Okay, do you have to make comments like this? In 2014, Tulsi Gabbard said of Narendra Modi, quote, "He is a leader whose example and dedication to the people he serves should be an inspiration to elected officials everywhere."
Everywhere. Elected officials everywhere. And isn't she running for an elected office?
She is.
So she's talking about herself too.
Yep.
And she's actually, I mean, she's actually in office right now, but she's running for president, the highest elected office in the United States. So I think that question would not just apply to her, you know, if she wins, you know, she wins, but it probably applies to her now.
Jimmy Dore also said that he was in a worked up emotional state. He said that he had been, I guess, dealing with all these assaults on Tulsi Gabbard. And like I said, he just got worked up. But he said that people got triggered by his comments. Isn't it Jimmy Dore that got triggered by a question, a legitimate question from a viewer of his? This wasn't an attack on Tulsi Gabbard. This was just a question from, I would probably guess, a loyal viewer that wanted an education on, hey, is this relevant? Is it not? Like, do you have any information about this? Like, what should we know? And you went off. Jimmy Dore went off the rails and just abandon his progressive approach, abandon logic and reason, all to support Tulsi Gabbard.
But why would he need to do that if, like, he was actually objective? And again, he didn't really explain himself. All he did was double down. He basically said the same thing. So, like, if you're going to explain like why you said what you said, it at least has to be different from like when you were in that emotional state, and it wasn't different. All he was doing was saying the exact same thing, just more calm.
Yep.
Because he even said that during his little rant about all of the frivolous criticisms. So he said all that. So we already knew that's why he was in that emotional state. It doesn't really change why, like, I guess I don't know what was behind the emotional state, and then what is clear is that
What's clear
is that he cannot take legitimate questions that people have about her, legitimate concerns, and that's a damn problem. I don't care what anybody says, that's a damn problem. This is not us disagreeing with words he used. This is us disagreeing with kind of faulty logic. This is us disagreeing with Jimmy's inability to be objective surrounding a very important issue. So this is not him like just being emotional Jimmy, him being the comedian Jimmy, him just like saying the wrong word the wrong way. This was bigger than that. It wasn't just a mistake, and like I said, he doubled down. Yeah. So he didn't do anything corrective here.
No,
he didn't
if it was
correct.
A mistake,
he didn't correct.
He
would have corrected, and he did not.
He didn't. He didn't, man. And see, that's the problem that we had initially, and just seeing.
So he still doesn't care. So he still doesn't care.
He does not care.
He doesn't care about global fascism. He still doesn't.
Nope.
So you got your answer right there. Nope. So if his whole thing was my bad, if the whole thing surrounds my bad, I was emotional, then you kind of correct it, which he didn't. So he's not really saying, hey, my bad, I was emotional. He's actually doubling down, and he's keeping the same position, which is not progressive.
Well, he cares. He cares about global fascism.
If we hold people like Barack Obama and centrists to the same standard.
But we do.
We do.
We do.
Us leftists, progressives.
Exactly.
You, Jimmy, you are supposed to, not hold double standards. You know what I'm saying? You can let I'll correct myself because I was about to say mainstream media, but on behalf of court, I will continually call them corporate media.
No doubt.
So, yeah, I don't care what double standards the corporate media has. They're always going to have those double standards. That's not my problem. Our jobs as progressives is to hold people to the same standard and not hold those double standards ourselves, which Jimmy Dore seems not to understand.
Right.
We already told y'all. Y'all already knew this before. Like, well, you couldn't know this before we started the show, but when we started the show, what did we say we were going to do, Will? What did we say we were going to do? When we started the show, like, go to our Facebook page, the mission statement on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, everywhere. I can't remember the entire mission statement, but what is, like, paraphrase? What is that mission statement? Paraphrase.
The mission statement is to hold anybody in any organization accountable, no matter who they are, no matter what they're tied to. It doesn't matter. We're going to hold you accountable for your words and for your actions. That's it. We're going to remain objective. I know there's some language about that.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. That's what we do.
That's on the damn page. Y'all know that shit. So don't act brand new when we kind of go against y'all, or maybe we kind of touch your hearts a little bit. Like, touch your emotional hearts when it comes to somebody you like and cherish, and somebody who is on the left and is a progressive that you see as valuable in this, whole political arena.
If they're wrong, they're wrong.
They're wrong, they're wrong. It don't matter. Nobody's saying you can't watch them. It's just why you getting up in your feelings when it's clearly something that's problematic. All you got to do is say, yeah, it's problematic. Let's hold them accountable and move on. But mugs don't even want to just acknowledge that just Jimmy is toxic in a certain way that actually at the end of the day might, like, what he's doing, he's actually laying a pathway for people to make the wrong decision. That's all I'm saying. And he does that, and it enables him.
Mm-hmm. Because if you, for all of his viewers that just support him unconditionally, and even when he makes an error, even when he says something that doesn't make any damn sense, even when he says something that should be criticized, you're there to just apologize for it or defend it or call him a jagoff comedian. Hey, you know what I'm saying? You're not doing anything but enabling him to make the same kind of irresponsible talking points.
If we are in the wrong in some kind of way and someone calls it out, you know what I'm gonna say? Hey, we're just jagoff, amateur, amateur host.
Yeah,
so don't take us seriously.
Yeah, we're not professionals.
That would be a lame ass excuse, man.
We welcome that. We welcome criticism. We welcome a difference of opinion. And like I said, the title of the video, there were some people saying, "Hey, this sensational clickbait." I was like, yeah, it was meant to convey opinion. It wasn't meant to be neutral. It wasn't meant to be like Luke, just like lukewarm water.
We wanted to construct the title.
It meant to be fiery. It was meant
to be fiery. Yeah, it was.
But like I said, when we saw that comment from one of the commenters, and they said, hey, it could be taken in this way. And, we saw there were some people taking that way. It's like, okay, you know what? We can change it.
Because sometimes, unfortunately, and this is sad for both sides, I don't think there's a side that is more guilty of it than another. But what people tend to do, whether it be videos or articles, what they do is they read the headline, and then whatever else is either in the video, commentary in the video, or whatever words or within the article, trying to just kind of get kind of drowned out by the headline, and people just kind of always keep the headline in mind without actually looking at the details of the commentary. So we took that into account.
Dude, there was, and this is not even related, but just related to what you were saying. There's another video that we uploaded to YouTube about a month ago. And it was about the man that wouldn't allow police officers in his home, and they had to break down the door, but then they charged him for not helping them, assisting him to get into the home, right? And he was charged, he was convicted. So we uploaded a video about that, right? So today, because it's been, I don't know, it's been kind of trending of all our videos. That one's been one that's trending. But there was one commenter today that said, you two irritate me because you talk stupidity and fuckery. These police officers made a mistake, so let's yell at all of them. I saw a guy robbing a store once, and he was African American. Let me gotta go to the rest of it. He said, should I call you two low-life thieves because you're African American as well? When you're looked at that way, it seems pretty fucked up, don't you? Police officers are just like you and me, and there's good and there's bad people. Stop treating them all the same. was that reflective of somebody that watched the video?
No. Somebody saw the title and probably maybe like heard one word we said and just kind of created a straw man in order to respond to us and started saying things that weren't reflective of anything we said in the video. That's a great example of what we're talking about.
And then I responded back to him because I said, before commenting and publicly embarrassing yourself, you should actually watch the video instead of assuming we were critical of all police officers. We weren't. He commented back with some like mumble jumble like, well, if you actually did that, well, that's good to hear because I see videos all the time where all they're doing is just throwing all the blame at all cops. You commented on a video.
You commented on a specific video though. So
and didn't even watch it.
How other that's what happened. I don't think he watched like 1 second of our video. 1 second.
He saw the image of police officers breaking down the door and was like, oh, you see these mugs, man? They're gonna be critical of all cops. Look at that, man. But anyway, all right. So I think we got through what we wanted to get through today. What we're gonna do is we're gonna open this up for callers. And we recommend that you do call in. We would love to hear from you. Let me put the graphic on the screen so that you can know what number to call. The number is 669-900-6833. And again, I recommend that we have some callers. And, you know, some new callers too. You know, I definitely enjoy our, you know, our the mainstays, you know, the people that are consistently, you know, enhancing this program by calling in and sharing their viewpoints, asking questions. You know who you are, and you, like I said, I always appreciate that you do that. But I would love to hear from other people that watch this program as well.
We did get a kind of a new caller. I think 2 days in a row, 2 shows in a row. I think she called in 2 shows in a row. I think it was what, Trudy. Was it Trudy? So yeah, that was a new caller. So we did like, you know, that was interesting. That it was a new caller. It was a good kind of fresh voice to hear.
That was good.
I think it's more about comfort as well. You know, people who are used to calling in are more likely going to call in again because of a comfort level, so they know what they're getting into. So maybe first-time callers, maybe people who might want to be first-time callers. Could be apprehensive because they don't know what they're getting into. But I mean, if you watch the show enough, you should already know what you getting into. You know what I'm saying?
I remember, and it was even after we had started doing this, and not LTMB live. We were doing, because if you go back and see some of the videos, man, ooh, they are not polished. Okay, they are not polished. Especially the first videos. Like because I did a few by myself before we too started doing them, and them videos. Bad.
Rough.
Bad. I mean, like, it was unpolished. But I remember during that time I called into a radio station, I believe, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say. But then when I got there, I was like, oh, damn. I couldn't get everything out. So, yeah, we know that, you know, you might be apprehensive. Just try to relax, you know. Maybe have something mapped out in your head. Maybe, you know, jot it down on paper, some bullet points or something like that. But we would love to hear from everybody. So we do have our first caller. So I definitely want to welcome them onto the program. The caller is from the 512 area code. So thank you for calling in. Who is this?
Hey guys, this is Josh. It's been a while. I've called him before, but it's been a long time.
All right, Josh, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing good, man. What you got for us?
Oh, I guess I kind of wanted to get you guys' opinion on a controversial subject. I don't think you talked about it on this show, but you know that story about the Covington kids? Was that the name of the?
Yeah, the Covington, the MAGA boys, the MAGA young men.
Yeah, the MAGA boys, the Covington Catholic school.
Right.
Yeah, exactly Yeah. I had a huge problem with the way that was run on so many major media outlets, and they have most of them retracted a lot of it. But I feel like there's this whole, and you know, I want Trump out of there, but I feel like there's this problem with a lot of these anti-Trump people where it's just like they don't care. They don't care that the media published completely false information about it. They just don't care that you try to talk to them about it, and they just avoid the subject. It's like, well, they're all total racist pieces of shit. They deserve it. It's almost like they're pushing this narrative that it's okay to lie, as long as as long as you're right. If you're right that they're bad kids, it's okay. It's excusable. And to me, that's a scary mentality.
Not only is it a scary mentality, it wasn't even necessary. So it's like, what happened in that situation, well, what happens with the media in a lot of cases, they want to be the first to jump on a story, so they establish a narrative first. Got to be first. Got to be first. So that's a problem. And so, and in this case, I don't even think it was necessary, because even if you look at what actually happened is still bad. So there's not... It's not even necessary to hold on to a false narrative to try to demonize anyone. You can just look at what actually happened and respond to that objectively and say, okay, it was still bad. I can like discard whatever the media is saying and listen to actually witnesses that were there and still come to a similar conclusion without kind of, I guess exaggerating the situation. We kind of talked about it. Me and Will talked about it, but we didn't really feel it was like necessary to like, I guess, like create a story out of on the show. What?
Do you think without really putting the stuff in there that, the big thing was that these kids approached and surrounded this guy.
Okay.
That was
here's
a
the
big
story.
sticking point.
Here's the actual story without trying to compartmentalize all these little moments and people taking screen caps or short, like little clips of video and trying to create a narrative out of these little short clips. Like that, this whole situation surrounds the Indigenous Peoples March, right? And there was other events going on within the Capitol. These boys who had chaperones, their event was already finished, some sort of pro-life event. Their event was already finished, and they had gathered in the area where the march was going on. Along with some Native Americans, there was some Black Hebrew Israelites. Now, this group was like 6 or 7, maybe 10 deep, and they're very confrontational. Now, while the MAGA boys were doing their chants, they were supposedly waiting on their bus, which wasn't true because that's where the Capitol's set up. That's not where you wait on your bus. But they were doing their little chants and like build a wall and yelling and stuff like that. And then the Black Hebrew Israelites, who are always confrontational with everyone, no matter like what their color is, they were yelling things like, put your shirt back on, get a bra, because like one of the kids from the school had his shirt off. So the confrontation was between those two groups. And so what happens is the Native American, what's his name? Nathan Phillips, his Native American veteran.
Right.
He started, again, doing what they always do to diffuse situations and just chanting and beating their drum. He came in to diffuse this situation. Then that's when kind of like the situation started. Like they started mocking him and chanting "Build the Wall" and stuff. Like that's wrong, but it's just like there's a larger story beyond this situation that we can talk about without like demonizing.
Yeah, no, I know, and that's not really what I wanted to focus on, and because that gets into, that's really just, to me, that's more of an opinion piece. When what they published was a list of, it was basically a list of events that didn't happen.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of stuff that they put in that story just did not happen.
You know,
they were putting facts in there.
You know what the larger story is? You know what the larger story is? Like the fact that these teenage boys from a Catholic school, and there's some actually other instances where, like, in other moments and events where these Catholic boys would like wear blackface at basketball games, and they were holding up the little white supremacist sign. Again, the larger story is who is in control of those boys. The Catholic school is in control of those boys. They were using these boys as props to promote their religious bigotry. Those boys are being used as props in Washington, D.C. And to me, that's the bigger story, that this Catholic school would kind of put these boys in that position. and
I wish that
enable these
what
boys.
The story would have been.
So to me, it's more about like these Catholic boys developing a worldview and a perspective that allows them to engage the world, and they do, because there was actually some other footage where they were like yelling at random people walking by, and the chaperones were there. So there's a damn problem with the environment these boys are coming up in. And so there's an issue with like this Catholic school and the Catholic school using them to push a political agenda, and really nobody's like really talking about that.
Right. There's a much bigger story there than just the two people that they focused on. Yeah. It's the school itself, it's the systemic racism, it's all that.
I understand that the media was like they're trying to be first. They're trying to be first, and they broadcast this story. I understand that they didn't have the full video. Maybe they thought they had all the video that was out there, but it is a criticism of them that in the face of getting the full video, they didn't I guess do it justice. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't report it the way it should have been. I don't know. I don't know. I think this is getting way too much air.
Video, like what they didn't explain where they got this information that they approached them and surrounded them like it was more than the video. It was these facts they put in the story. They just totally wrong.
Yeah, they diminished a lot of kind of the narrative a bit to kind of shape it. And like I said, it wasn't even necessary to do that. Yeah, it wasn't even necessary. You didn't have to do that. So, but yeah, that's kind of how we think about it. We didn't want to like kind of feed that, so we didn't want to.
It's beginning too much air.
Yeah, it's beginning too much air, man.
Yeah.
Oh, is that okay? Well, I'll respect that if that's the way you feel, but.
Yeah, we just thought that we agree with you. There's a larger narrative here that's not being discussed, and I just didn't really want to discuss some, like, I don't know. The direction, the pathway it was going would kind of end up kind of not addressing anything really. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess my main concern is that in a lot of ways, that really, I hate to say it, but it does kind of condone and confirm a lot of the worst Trump rhetoric out there. And it reinforces their beliefs so much when stuff like that happens. Like, I feel like the media really needs to be careful about stuff like that. But
well, I don't know that it condones everything, like all the talking points, because again, like those kids aren't blameless.
I think reinforce was the perfect word, though. I do think reinforce was the perfect word to use, though. Yeah, I do think reinforce, because I see where you're coming from.
It condones it in their minds.
Yeah, it condones it in their minds, and now they can say, "See, the fake news is fake, and we're justified in thinking what we think. See, they were wrong about this one thing or this one thing here, so therefore we're right."
Yeah.
So yeah. Kind of does that.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, we appreciate you calling in.
Okay. All right, guys. Take care.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we got another caller from the 562 area code. You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hello, it's me, Saul, I call in now, like 2 weeks now.
Saul?
I don't know. Saul.
Spell it.
S-A-A-B.
S-A-A-B?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Saab. Oh, like the car.
Okay.
Like the car.
Yeah, from Downey.
All right, what you got for us tonight?
My question is about I don't know if you're familiar with gentrification in the area. I want to know, like, what's your opinion on gentrification?
You mean just in general?
Just in general?
It's because, like, in, like, the communities more like Watts and Compton, they're starting to gentrify the neighborhoods, which is good and all. I like that it really makes the place really nice, but they're kicking people of color out of their houses, raising up so high without warning to some people. And it's like, I want to know if like there's really a real solution to it, or like should we gentrify or should we just leave it the way it is for the people there?
Well, hold on, but can you turn that? You got something on in the background that's making it hard to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm driving with my dad, so yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. This is as best as I could
You're
get.
good. You're good. I see. I think the issue is not. I think gentrification is just a symptom of a larger issue, and that's economic inequality. Because, like you said, you mentioned that people can't afford it. Well, why can't people afford it? Because when there's an attempt by developers and the city to improve a neighborhood and to get businesses in there and to get, like, I guess, high rent residential areas in there, yeah, naturally, the cost of living is going to go up. I don't think that is a problem in and of itself, because I think people in general deserve to live in a certain area that they can have pride in. People deserve to live in an area that's not like run down. The problem comes with just economic inequality. That's kind of the backdrop of why gentrification is a big issue. Because if those people had opportunities and the city they lived in provided those opportunities for them, and they had access to those opportunities, then gentrification wouldn't be an issue. They would be able to be successful, and they would be able to live in those areas without having to struggle or move out.
Yeah, on its face, gentrification. Well, on its face, like clean up an area, making it more prosperous. That's not like a negative thing. Like you said, you should have some pride in your community, in your area. You should have more opportunities in terms of, shopping districts or, just places to go have fun or just spend your money, whatever. Like, there's no problem with that. Like you said, the problem is, does the people that were originally there and the people that might want to live there, are they going to have access to it? Are they going to have access to the money to actually live there or spend time there? And we just don't see that. It's about economics. If we actually had a meaningful minimum wage, if we actually had opportunities for people that are at the bottom where they could actually lead a life of dignity and respect and actually afford the bare necessities, then I don't think a lot of this would be a problem. Like, gentrification would be something that we wouldn't be talking about a lot. It would go by the wayside, because a lot of people would have the opportunity to live in communities that give them some pride. But when we see the companies like Amazon coming into the area, when we see other companies coming into the area, we saw what happened with Harlem. Harlem used to be an area where white people really weren't. And then all of a sudden, Bill Clinton is there, and more white people are coming into the area, and it's driving up prices. That's
capitalism, though. You see what I'm saying? Capitalism has to expand, so that's part of it too. Capitalism needing to expand. But this 10-year challenge thing that's going on, where people were posting their pictures from 10 years ago with their pictures from now, and I guess people are looking at the amount of change that has occurred. Now, I do have a friend that says that challenge is based on Facebook and other social media networks kind of being in bed with facial recognition software companies to help their algorithm. I'll kind of put that out there, but that's another day, another subject. One 10-year challenge that I really liked, probably was my favorite of all, is a 10-year challenge that showed the minimum wage 10 years ago and the minimum wage now. And it's the same. It's the damn thing. That was my favorite 10-year challenge.
You know what's not the same? Inflation.
Inflation, cost of living. Cost of living. So capitalism, cost of living, the minimum wage, the wealth gap, all those things make gentrification worse. I think we call it, I don't even know if we can actually call it gentrification, because it has a negative connotation.
Right. Again, it's just...
It's called urban development. That's what it's really called.
It wouldn't be a problem if people in these urban communities could actually afford to stay in their urban communities when they are developed.
And I think that goes into what goes in mind when these communities get developed. I think the individuals who are behind it, they don't have those poor people in mind. I think that's part of it too. They have all these investments that they're involved in, and they don't have these people in mind. I think that's another part of it too. Just there are certain people who are not valued. But again, that still ties into their worth being devalued by them not being able to like realistically develop a sense of livelihood within their communities by making a living. So,
like we want communities to invest in their community. We want more job opportunities. We want these schools to be able to afford renovations to their buildings and their books and, you know, supplies. We want I guess we want a good salary for our teachers, who I believe should be one of the highest earners in our society. But again,
yeah, but they don't get that in LA.
Yeah, but when you do invest in these communities, you have to make sure that the residents there are able to still live there, you know?
Yeah. I just don't see a solution for Los Angeles right now. I don't know what to do.
Well, Los Angeles and a lot of other areas, you know?
And it doesn't help that, isn't like a lot of the urban development and the gentrification has to do with like sports teams as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the LA Rams new stadium.
Yeah, right.
Being built. It's good and all, but the people around the area are their rents being risen up by $1,000 in 1 month.
That's crazy.
And they don't have rent control, and I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, that's why I just think the whole argument is bullshit when people say like, oh, sports teams coming to, you know, your city, it's going to be
jobs.
Yeah, okay.
What jobs? What jobs? Enough, a high-paying job to ensure that I can stay where I am?
You run a 4.3 and you can bench press 300 pounds?
No,
and
not
you have a 35-inch vertical?
No, not
I'm talking about those jobs, like pro and like...
service-based jobs.
Oh, service-based, okay.
Yeah, service-based jobs where you're not earning a high income. And again, the minimum wage is what? Is it 25?
$7.25.
$7.25? Yeah, that's a starving wage, like we know. So there, you know, in just connection with this, I did read in New Jersey agreed to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I believe that was last week. And of course, it's not going to happen immediately, but it's going to be raised to $10 an hour on July 1st of this year, and then incrementally each year $1 each year until 2024, in which it'll hit $15 an hour. So it's like, I mean, look, it's progress. It's good. In 2024, what is $15 going to look like? You know, how is that going to feel? Because even $15 an hour right now is not enough.
You want to know what $15 in 2024 is going to look like? A bag of chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Maybe a pair of shoestrings.
Yeah. That's
because of inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, look, it'd be better than what we have right now, the $7.25. Definitely it'd be better than that, no doubt. So yeah, this is, you know, progress.
In California, it's $10.50, but since California's cost of living is so high, $10.50 really helps them.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I understand that, man.
I understand that, man.
Well, look, we appreciate you bringing that up, man. It's a very important subject to talk about.
Thank you. Really appreciate the show.
Hey, man, we appreciate you viewing the show and calling in, Saab. Really do.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night, man.
Good night. All right. We have a familiar guest from the 443 calling in.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? It's Court.
What's going on, Court? How you doing tonight?
Man? I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. How y'all doing?
Man, I'm doing good considering the circumstances. Like, I'm good personally, but just the overall outlook I have on this country and the world is shit right now. But I'm doing okay.
Look, I have to say, you know, right now, we good. You know, we like doing the show. We like, you know, reporting the news, and you know, we definitely like talking to our viewers, talking to people who call in. I will say, Friday, when I got the news of that sentence of Jason, I was not good, man. Straight up, I was not good.
That's because, you know, they're never going to punish these cops for... I think the only one, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only one who got any kind of a double-digit sentence for what he did was the guy who stopped... What was his name? Something Scott. Walter Scott.
Oh, Walter
the
Scott.
Guy.
Yeah.
The guy who shot Walter Scott.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
He got what, 20 years?
That guy got a chunk of time. Yeah, but that's because it was just plain as dead.
It was too egregious.
Laquan McDonald was plain as day.
Yeah.
Because he got shot in the back too. But you know, just because he had a knife and he was moving away from the cops, that made him extremely dangerous, I guess.
Roy Oliver, the one that shot Jordan Edwards, what did he get? Did he get 20 years too?
I think so, but I think he got 20.
No, okay, hold on. He got sentenced to 15 years.
I guess that would qualify as the double digits court was talking about, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, like I mean, you kill somebody, you should get double digits.
No doubt.
If somebody come in my house, and it's my house, and I kill them in self-defense, I'm gonna get double digits.
You know
what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you were defending yourself. If you kill somebody, you're going to get some time. But if you're a cop and you shoot a black person, it's just whatever. Who cares? It's just a black person. Nobody gives a fuck. It's ridiculous.
Like it's sad, man. It's sad because again, I just don't see it does any good for anybody but his family and the institution of law enforcement. It doesn't do this country any good at moving the ball forward.
When you said his wife got up there and talked about how it was a sacrifice and shit,
he paid the he paid the ultimate price.
It's somebody's child that man, you know what I mean? It's somebody's child that man shot cold in the street like that and didn't have to. And then she's going to get up there and talk about, oh, we're making fun of this. Fuck you.
Yeah, she was trying to get probation for him. She was on the stand saying, yeah, we, as minimal time as possible, possibly probation, I'm like you don't care. Like, if you're actually, like, I understand you're in a difficult spot.
And you're the wife.
I understand that. But you have to understand that your wife, your husband killed somebody.
Anybody give a fuck if Laquan McDonald was in a difficult spot?
Exactly.
Nobody give a fuck about that.
Where's the empathy, right?
No.
Where's the empathy?
Nobody give a fuck about that. If she get up there and talk about how hard it is on her and her husband after he fucking shot that teenager in cold blood. And then we got these, these kids over there up, what's it, Covington?
Yeah,
Covington High School talk. Dude, that shit is, and I'm on Reddit, right, and I'm listening to people try and, spin this thing and narrate this thing, right? Yeah, and they come out and they're like, oh, that situation never went down like that. The Native American, he walked up on that. So, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of fucked up. And then you start to read into it, and it's like, no, there were some black Hebrew Israelites who were talking shit to everybody, and they were about to start some violence, right? And the stupid-ass white kids think that they can just walk up to anybody off the street because they're white and their parents teach them this shit, and they could just talk shit to who the fuck ever. And the Native American guy was like, whoa, Junior, let's cool down. He's just trying to separate the two people that are about to get into some violence, right? I kind of wish he didn't. I mean, that's fucked up to say, but I kind of wish he did. But at any rate, he gets in front of these black Hebrew Israelites, and the kids want to sit there and stare him down and not let him walk through because they don't want to, I guess, look like a bunch of pussies because, they actually acquiesced to a Native American who gave a fuck about their welfare and tried to do something to stop what pretty much should have been their first ass whooping, if you ask me. But whatever. But fuck it. It's disgusting. Shit's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, like I said, I think too much attention is being paid on that. It's being overreported. It's being misreported.
And I don't like how, I don't think they're being particularly, I don't think we could say those boys are being doxxed, but I saw some like a Twitter user.
How you gonna get doxxed if you get up on national television acting an ass like that?
See, I think it's like that's just par for the course now. I don't necessarily agree with it, especially for them being too young. But that's par for the course now. You kind of got to expect that.
Oh, social media. Them motherfuckers can kill somebody too.
But
you know what I mean? They're star basketball players up on rape charges, or they're star football players up on rape charges or something.
See, but
kill somebody too, and everybody's like, oh, we should be nice to them because they're kids. Fuck that. Kids can be some of the most violent people out there.
But see, I think like. I don't agree with like Twitter posts that like have like a kind of like a diagram and they kind of have each boy's picture and they like have it numbered. To me, like, good, like whatever, they should be highlighted, but I don't think usually the consequences of that are always good, and the consequences of that never seem to lead to a broader discussion. Like in that Twitter feed, like it just seemed as if like the discussion was just solely on the boys, and there was like no talk about like, hey, where were the chaperones? Where are and there were chaperones there. Like not a lot of talk about the chaperones. Some talk about the school, some larger discussions, but really not much. Not really any larger discussion about like the atmosphere of the school. And how this has gone on, these kind of activities and this kind of mentality amongst this group of boys is something that's enabled. And it's not like, you know, some new thing. And it's not isolated to this one Catholic school. I think they're being kind of held up as like the sacrificial lamb, or, you know, this
religious schools.
Yeah.
Religious schools in America are basically madrasas.
Yeah.
That's basically what they are. They're basically madrasas, and they train those kids to hate, you know, people who don't believe in their particular strain of Christianity. And a lot of American religion is about racism, and they train those kids to hate people who aren't like them. It's like the My Lai massacre. And Mike, I understand that you need, you know, that you have some compassion and stuff. So I really don't have much compassion for these people, because it's like the My Lai massacre. When the My Lai massacre occurred, right, it took an American pilot to get in between a platoon or a company-sized element of soldiers that were running through a Vietnamese village, and out of revenge for raping and killing everyone in the goddamn village. 200 people died, right? And then, you know, when it comes back to the States, the guy who come back to the States and was put up on charges, court-martialed, he got 3 fucking years. He got 3 years. And the country was so fucking pissed about that they hemmed and they hawed the right side conservative warmongers. They hemmed and they hawed until that dude was let go with almost no time served. And that's why I don't have any compassion for these people. That's why I really don't give a fuck about those kids. Like, I honestly wish that Native American would have done us all a favor and let those kids get their ass beat. That's really what I wish would have happened. But because we have to have, I guess, human civility with these fucking people and the way they treat other people, you know, I'm not supposed to say that. But that's just bullshit. And I can guarantee you, if one of them kids got hurt, right, I can guarantee you, we would have a very different conversation, and the news media would have made Nathaniel Phillips and all the other people there who weren't white into the criminals and the victims. And there wouldn't have been no goddamn, let's go back and make sure the fucking truth is told. There wouldn't have been any of that. And everybody would have been like, oh my God, kids are innocent. It's bullshit. The kids are not innocent. They went over there to start some shit, and luckily that dude got in front of them before they got it handed to him. And I wish he would have let him get it handed to him, because they needed to get it handed to him.
Court feeling froggy today.
Yo, Court feeling froggy. He you notice how he kind of started off calm.
I'm saying, man, you got hyped up real quick.
He got hyped up now, man. I feel like I'm talking to Draymond Green over here.
That shit gets to me, man, because I know, like, y'all know I read a lot of history, and I know how Americans treat people that are minorities that get the upper hand on them or that stick up for themselves. See, that's the problem. Like Trayvon Martin gets shot in the street, sticking up for himself on his own goddamn street, in his own goddamn neighborhood, but somehow he's a fucking criminal. You know what I mean? That's how America is. That's why I don't have much sympathy for them kids, and I don't have much sympathy for that fucking narrative that you're trying to put out there that they were so goddamn innocent. They weren't fucking innocent.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they were innocent. I think they were old enough to know exactly what they're doing. We have a comment in the chat section I want to address, and Terry Ray said something about the Native American, that, you know, why should that Native American get, you know, respect because he walked into a crowd beating a drum? I don't think that's a good question to ask, because I think that's kind of irrelevant. Whatever his motive was, you know, for doing that, I think that matters. And I don't think, like, the interaction between those MAGA boys and those Catholic boys and the Hebrew Israelites kind of connected to how they treated that Native American. I don't think those two things have anything to do with one another. Like, I don't think that's the first reaction I'd have if a Native American walked towards me and started beating a drum. My first reaction wouldn't be to mock him and then start chanting "Build that wall." That wouldn't be my first reaction, especially if the initial agitation came from another group. So I'm not necessarily holding Nathan Phillips up there as, you know, somebody who.
I'm holding him up there as a
I'm not. It's really, to me, it's not about him. It's more about like what that type of interaction says about us and kind of what kind of generation we are raising here in the United States. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want the conversation to be stuck on the boys in the Catholic school. I just don't want them to be used as a sacrificial lamb. That's all.
I get what you're saying, but Nathan Phillips, man, Nathan Phillips. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, hey, whatever. If you don't want to believe him or you want to think that he's some kind of an asshole for beating his drum in the little boy's face, fine, okay, whatever. But why did this dude risk life and limb to get in between these little ignorant-ass children and these little ignorant-ass black Hebrew Israelites? You know, why is that shit not important? And why is the motherfucker got to be put down on and not important because he wants to sit there and stick up some asshole who has no respect for anybody who's not white and believes in his particular God? Think about what you're saying. Think about why you are angry at the Native American, because he got in between some young ignorant-ass children and an ignorant-ass group of black Hebrew Israelites. This is what Nathan Phillips' sin is? This is what makes him a bastard? Because he did that? Oh, fuck that shit.
No, I ain't got no contempt for Nathan Phillips.
Oh, heck no. I watched the interview with him on there. I watched the extensive interview, and he seemed like a pretty genuine dude.
Now, there's a comment from Jay Warwick saying they didn't, I guess this is really to you, Court, talking about the Covington boys, saying they did nothing to deserve someone putting their hands on them. You know, what is wrong with Court? And look, like Court saying that, you know,
when did
you want them to...
Wait, whoa. Who put their hands on who?
No. You were saying that you were saying that you would kind of like to see the violence kind of commence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but see, I understand that feeling. But I understand that feeling. Like when you see bigots doing stuff, you know, when you see bigots out there in their bigoted ways, it's like a feeling you want something to happen to them. It's not really like you really are trying to profess violence or encouraging it. You want to like act, antagonize the situation and stuff like that. It's just that they stand for everything that is wrong when you're talking about humanity. So, like, who doesn't have a natural human reaction? Is like, man, I wish for 1 second somebody would lay that dude out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just a human reaction.
It is. It's just a human reaction, and I'm not going to play the nice guy because of people's sensitivities. It's not about people's sensitivities. If you're old enough to talk shit to a grown ass man, you probably deserve to get your shit smacked.
Yeah.
This probably putting that out there. It's probably what the kids are missing any goddamn way. It's a little bit of discipline. Their parents teach them that they're the top of the heap because they were white and they were born with penis, and now they're going to walk around in D.C. and talk shit to people. Well, fuck them. Like, I really don't care. You know what I mean? Like,
I think at this point, we live in a digital age, right? I think by this point, we've all seen videos where somebody was probably talking some shit. Somebody got laid out because of what they were doing. And as a result of you seeing the video, you didn't feel too bad for them. You know, like, I think we've all seen those kind of videos or actually seen them in person.
You know what I mean? It's not about fair with these people. And that's what kills me about a lot of progressives and even moderately left people. They feel like if they just be fair with these people, that they'll turn around and people don't give a fuck about fair. They love the fact that you are bound by your goddamn morals because they aren't. They really don't give a fuck.
No.
You think they're joking about wanting to kill all these Central Americans and stuff and lock them in cages? You think they're joking about that shit? They're not joking. These people are waiting for any excuse to do some violence. They're the only ones who do the violence. I mean, you see a couple left-wing shooters, and Steve Scalise gets shot, and everybody wants to turn that into the left as some kind of a violent, like megalomaniacal, like evil, diabolical organization bent on destruction of every civilian in the country, while right-wing terrorists have been murdering Americans for decades, and no one really gives a fuck. because all they want to say is, oh, well, you know, this is a lone wolf, and he had even mental issues. And no.
Lone wolf.
Bullshit.
Mental issues. Yep.
Bullshit. Fucking terrorists. And they go around killing people, and they're like, oh, God, we got to give him some mercy. But if it was a black person that did it, he's a goddamn thug murderer. He deserves to get shot in the back 17 times, and cops get let off 6 years.
And he'd be representative of the whole entire black race, too.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It wouldn't even be a matter of, oh, well, there's actually some black people who are quite peaceful. No, all black people are violent because one black person shot somebody.
That's why in the black community, whenever you saw something pop off, whenever you saw a news break, something happened, somebody broke into a liquor store, somebody like robbed a bank, somebody murdered somebody, like, man, just don't let it be a black person, please. Don't. Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah. You know how many times I have sat there and heard about a terrorist attack? And I'm like, please don't let this be a Muslim. Please don't let this be a Muslim. Please don't. Because I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. Now, if it's a white dude, everybody's going to be like, oh, man, mental issues. Shit, can't do nothing about it. Shouldn't talk about gun safety or nothing. It's terrible. Bring my hand. But if it's a black person or if it's a Muslim, well, shit. That motherfucker needs to be thrown up under the jail. And they need to go get all of his friends and family and round them. I just couldn't imagine, why don't we just kick all the brown and black people out of the country? Because one that did that shit. One of them did that shit.
It's gonna turn into something larger, man.
That's bold.
All right, Court.
It just gets on my nerves.
We understand, man. Straight
all
up.
Right, though.
We got one more caller we want to get in, and we got about 2 minutes left, man. We appreciate you calling in, Court.
All right, folks. Take it easy.
All right, man.
Peace.
This looks like Tony.
All right, 770, you're on the air with LTMB.
Is this Tony?
Yes, Tony.
What's going on, man? We about 2 minutes.
All right. That whole thing with Gabby.
Tulsi Gabbard.
What's her name?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't even say her name,
said
man.
Gabby.
Well, they Gabby. That's actually fits.
I know.
That actually fits. But go ahead. That was actually accurate.
Yeah. With Jimmy defending her above all costs, yeah, we're getting into that season again because I'm also seeing people going overboard with overreacting to Kamala Harris. And nobody's talking about none of her policies or anything. It's just like, oh well, she's not black, you know. She's really Indian, and her father was Jamaican. She ain't American black, or she's married to a white man. I'm seeing that already.
Does that even matter? Like, just look at her policies and what she stands for.
Exactly. So, but it started getting in full swing.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I know you only got like a couple seconds now, but that's all I wanted to say.
You got a couple minutes.
Yeah, you got about a minute.
You got about a minute.
No, that's it. I'm done.
Okay. All right, well, we appreciate you calling in, Tony.
All right.
Yeah, well, like he said, Tony, it is that season, man. And it's early, too, man. This is just the beginning. This is just the first month of 2019. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to be a total wreck, man. Look, there's enough criticisms of Kamala Harris. And, so many of these other people. There's so many criticisms. Just stay on those. You don't have to invent things. Like, I don't have to not be objective to tell the truth about what Tulsi Gabbard has said or done in her past. I don't have to be not objective. I can deal with exactly what's out there right in front of me. Same thing with Kamala Harris. Same thing with Elizabeth Warren. Same thing with probable Cory Booker or Kirsten Gillibrand. You know what I'm saying? It's right there for you. Just deal with what's right in front of you.
There's no need to invent anything.
No. Because it really doesn't matter, man. Like the all that other nonsense, that's just noise, man. But Tulsi, I'm off Tulsi. Gabby. I like that. Thank you for that, Tony.
He set that up by accident.
Gabby, okay.
Essentially
I didn't think about that.
That's to me, that kind of connects to the story we covered where we thought she was just gabbing for the sake of being in the middle when she didn't have to. Because I don't think she wanted to give the Democrats any credit, even though they're on the right side of this. You may not like the Democrats, like in a broad sense, but you don't just like become like some professional contrarian just because you hate a corrupt party or a party that bends over too much.
But she's part of that party.
I know.
She's part of that
dumb.
party.
It's
willingly
there's enough to criticize them on. You don't really have to, invent stuff.
It's so easy. Like again, like there's so much crap out there, even about Hillary Clinton, that we're like, come on, like, can we actually stay on the facts? Like, come on, like we don't have to, travel into the land of nothingness and just invent stuff about her. No, there's so much here. There's so much juicy material. Let's just deal with that. Same thing with Tulsi, man. Like, and if there's something there, just stick to the issue, remain objective, and like let that guide you. That's it. Representative Gabby from Hawaii. That's what I like right there, man. I'm off, like I said, I'm off that train. I don't even know if I was ever on that train. You got off that train late 2016. I was gonna give a sister a little chance. I was gonna give her a little chance at least and be like, yo, I'll hear what you got to say.
Well, I just said I wasn't like.
Why was it?
I'm just saying. I was like, wait a second. What did I actually say? I just said I'm not feeling it.
You was like, I ain't feeling Tulsi.
Okay then, I said I ain't feeling it. I wasn't like,
what
man.
Does that suggest?
Does that suggest I'm just throwing the chicken in the trash can? Nah,
yes,
man.
Yes.
No, nah. I just said I wasn't feeling it, man. That was just
what about now?
That was just my initial assessment.
All right, we in 2019 now.
No, not feeling
in the trash can.
Depends on what happens in the primary. But I don't think she's going to win the primary.
Well, we're talking about just the primary. Forget the general. We're just talking just the primary.
What if it's right now? What if it's like Gillibrand, Booker, Warren, Harris, and her?
Hands down, Warren.
Okay.
I don't even have to think about that.
Really?
I seriously don't even have to think about that.
I don't know, man. I'm just not trusting. Like she just reminds me of that same kind of. I don't know, like she has that same persona, like a Kerry or a Gore. That same, like, very vanilla, like nothing exciting about her. I just don't think she would. I don't know, man. Warren? Ooh.
You see, you're talking about who'd be best served to go up against Trump?
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And so what Trump is going to do. You know what Trump is going to do. You know what Trump is going to carry into that general election. It may not be as biting or be as, have as much, I don't know, like, it doesn't have as much significance as the thing he brought about when he went against Hillary Clinton, but he's going to just run that into the ground. He's going to run that doggone Pocahontas stuff into the ground.
Will that be enough? At this point, man?
I really can't say. Yeah, I can't say no. I mean, think about where.
Look, I honestly believe at this point that just noting the contenders right now, or even the potential contenders. At this point,
Bernie better drop his fucking hat, dog. He better drop that hat.
But see, I'm talking about all of them that I see potentially with the. I think Kamala Harris would actually have
a better chance.
No, I think she might have the worst chance of all.
How so?
Because she's a black woman.
Okay, I can see that.
I think she might have the worst chance of all. Even though, I mean, getting the nomination might serve her the best because of California.
Know what? Because see what Barack Obama had.
Party, that might be
see what Barack Obama had. He had that swagger that he could, he could unbutton his shirt and show that chest to white women. Kamala don't have that. I'm just being serious.
To get the votes of white men.
To get the vote. She's definitely not getting the votes of white men. If we're just looking at it superficially, I see where you're coming from. Because what Obama had, he had a little bit of like charisma and appeal.
Yeah.
And I think that that ability to cross over. But the fact that Kamala Harris is a black woman, if we're just looking at it superficially,
which we have to do.
I don't think that, she has that same kind of charisma that can draw people. You know what I'm saying? All Barack Obama had to do was unbutton that shirt.
I still would project that.
Show his beige chest.
I still would project that the contenders that we see and that we will likely see, I still project that most of them, I think, would win against Trump. I don't know about Kirsten Gillibrand. I don't think she could even make it through. Like, no. I think she's gonna. I don't think there's any way that she actually gets through and like is even a top 3 contender.
You sent me a video where she dealt with some statements she made about
poorly.
Yeah, she made some poor statements.
Yeah, but Well, okay, because going back into her time in the House of Representatives, she was a conservative Democrat. Blue Dogs, Blue Dog Coalition. You know what I'm saying? So this is a conservative.
You gonna throw up the.
I
gonna start stepping. You gonna start stepping?
Step in here, man. I ain't got no room, man. I could get loose or something, but I can't. I can't do it. But anyway, she was conservative, and she had some of the same rhetoric as these conservative Republicans do on the border, talking about crime and like no amnesty, and we need to deport them as soon as possible. And the same type of same kind of narrative and talking points. And she was trying to defend, because actually, and this was a good question by Jake Tapper. This was actually a good journalist type question by Jake Tapper. It was surprising. But he was saying, hey, if you're framing what Trump and the Republicans are right now and advocating for this wall as racist, then isn't what you used to be about? Isn't that racist? And she was tasked with trying to explain the differences, which she did not do. She did not do whatsoever.
She was stuttering.
Yeah, she
was stuttering a lot. It was
bad.
I was like, wow, you're in a very controlled environment on a network that we would consider friendly to your cause and your party, and you just waffled. It just looked like she was just not even comfortable answering a question, and it didn't come off genuine to me. And I was like, dang, this is not a hostile environment, and you just look kind of shaky, girl.
She was trying to pivot, and it was just a poor performance. I don't think she has any chance whatsoever. She might as well just get out, just right after she got in. I don't think she has any chance whatsoever.
But Wall Street told her.
Yeah, but Wall Street
told her.
They must have sang her praises. They must have gave her good news.
They must have gave her some good
news. We got you. We got you. And so now we're left with, because Cory Booker talked to Wall Street too, so we don't have an announcement from him yet. But maybe they didn't give him the good news. Maybe it's like, Cory, man.
Maybe he was like, we can only pick one.
Exactly, man.
We can only pick. There could be only one.
There can
be only one.
I think Kamala Harris talked to him too, right?
But there can be only one corporate Highlander.
Oh, so that's Kamala. But they gave Gillibrand the go. So that's two. So then we're like, yo, we already got two. Booker, you're the odd man out, man. I'm sorry. We can't. We only got so much money. We only got so much money, man. So, whatever. But yeah, in the primaries, my leading candidate as of right now,
is Warren.
Warren is my leading candidate as of right now.
Well, you say your leading candidate. That's cool.
As in the person that I expect to vote for. As of right now.
Okay, then that's kind of a different. That's a separate issue.
Yes.
I was more thinking about who is the most viable candidate in general, without your own.
You know what? I do have a different answer for that then. I would say if he can actually get... Look, we don't know about Bernie. I'm not even going to include Bernie because he hasn't announced. But as of the people that have announced, who we know are going to be running for president, if this dude could actually garner enough support, I think... No.
I know. Yes,
No. Julian Castro. I think going up against Trump, I don't think it'd be a problem.
And then Beto hasn't really said anything yet.
Right.
So
like I said, I think Castro, if he has enough support, because look, he was in the Obama administration. Two, he definitely sounds more progressive than Obama. He's from Texas, a red state. Yeah. I don't know if he could carry it.
You think that?
But it's a good chance.
That's what I was about to say.
It's a good chance. We saw what Beto did, and that was a statewide race.
And kind of that's how he gained his notoriety. But again, he gained his notoriety during a race. Castro doesn't have the benefit of being he doesn't have that same benefit that Beto had of gaining visibility through a race that was national focus.
But he was already. Like Castro was already known on the national scene before. He was the Secretary of HUD. I don't know how much cachet that's gonna, I don't know how much that's gonna bring him. I know he's known in San Antonio, that's where he's from. I know he's known in Texas, where he's from. I don't know.
See, again, it's like we're gonna have to consider what areas of vulnerability a lot of these candidates have. You know what I'm saying? We've already kind of kind of glossed over. We didn't really cover Beto a lot, but we talked about some of the things we had a problem with.
Yeah, we did.
But I think like anybody with any kind of baggage or is connected to certain individuals is going to have a hard time. Like you said, he was in the Obama administration. That in itself, he's going to have a lot of questions to answer about that. You see what I'm saying? So his whether he's genuine or not is, you know, is going to hinge on how questions he can answer about his time in the Obama administration. And we talk about
it's going to be limited though, because he was HUD, man.
Oh, it doesn't matter. He's connected.
Yeah, he's connected, but he doesn't have whatever stain is going to be on him is going to be just about him. That's the way I view it. Like, yeah, he was in the Obama administration. I just don't.
I'm not talking about you or I. I'm just saying how a lot of people will view it.
But Democratic voters,
probably not. Probably not
love
Democratic
Obama.
voters. True that.
A lot of them say we want Obama back. We missed Obama as president. So somebody that was in the administration, I mean, like I said, he's already got something working for him.
Yeah, something. But the visibility is a big issue.
Yeah, the visibility is an issue. We don't know how much support he can garner on a national scale. It does. I will say it does help him that he was on the national scale before. He was appointed the Secretary of HUD. So I mean, he is definitely known. Just don't know if he can eclipse, you know, somebody like possibly Warren or Kamala Harris or I guess those are the top two right now, right? You would Harris and Kamala. I mean, Kamala Harris and Warren. I would think at this point, for people that have just have announced, I would think they would poll the highest.
Probably, I would say yes. I think Tulsi could kind of cut into that depending on how she performs in the media, and I think like it's stacked up against her. I think it's stacked up against her and Warren, not in the same way, because they're already kind of scheduling Kamala Harris to be that woman, because they already scheduled a town hall for her in Iowa coming up shortly.
Right.
And we already kind of had the idea that she was running based on the whole primary schedule change. You know what I'm saying? Like we said that happened over like a year ago.
Oh yeah.
So like it was already kind of like in the works. So yeah, she's running. And now that she's officially running, I think we can say with confidence that move was designed for her, and she is who they're prepping.
I want to see a poll including Tulsi Gabbard, because I'm not convinced that she is supported nationally. I'm not convinced. I'm really not convinced she's supported nationally. We know that the progressive community is a small community.
And we forgot to even mention the other person that's up in there. Maybe he's so far down we forgot to mention, and L-Train put it out there in this Ojeda. We forgot to mention him because he announced too. It's just that he did it so damn early.
He did it the night that
he lost his election, so I guess we kind of forgot about him.
I don't think Ojeda doesn't have a chance, man. Look, that's just my takeaway right now. I can't imagine that Ojeda would have a chance. Democrats are going to punish him on the campaign trail simply because he voted for Trump.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think there's any way. I don't think there's any way, man. Nah. But anyway, we can continue this on, and we will continue this on because this primary season is going to be very long, and it's only, 2019. At the beginning of 2019, we still have to make it all the way to November of 2020. 2 years of this. You ready?
No, I'm not ready. I'm just going to admit that right now. I'm not ready. I need to get back into some of my centering exercises, my breathing exercises, so I can kind of like prepare myself for all this nonsense.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
L-Train said them Ojeda debates would be on fire. I agree with that.
Yes, they would.
He will bring the fire. He would definitely bring the fire. So I agree with that.
I can see Ojeda like wearing like a bandana or some shit. You know what I'm saying? I can see Ojeda wearing like a bandana or something.
I'm coming for you, Trump.
Oh, actually, I can see him wearing like a karate outfit. Ojeda seems like the type of person that would do that jump.
Like
a Bruce Leroy show enough.
Like come over to the podium. Don't make me come over to this podium.
Yeah. I can see him do that.
What'd you say, Gillibrand?
I see him wearing like like the eye paint under his eyes like football players do. I can see him doing that shit.
Yo.
He'll come on TV with like a full helmet and shit.
Yo. I'd have to support him.
Must come on like with actually like dressed in like full football pads or some shit.
Yo. That would be legendary, wouldn't it? Nobody would forget that, man. But anyway, all right, let's take this home, man. We're gonna get out of here in just a minute. We definitely do want to thank all of our callers for calling in, and that's Tony, that's Saab, that's Josh and Court.
Right.
So we definitely appreciate you for adding to the stream, and call back again. We definitely look forward to hearing from you, all of you again, and others as well, new voices as well.
Mm-hmm. Don't want to forget about Jose Garcia. Shooting us a little bit of cash. We really appreciate that. And he left a comment as he was kind of submitting those funds. And it says that commenter was a cop, LOL. Probably talking about the comment under the video, about the old video that you highlighted. So that's probably correct. He's a cop, or he knows somebody as a cop.
Yeah, or very directly related to
the
cops. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Probably so.
But, you know, in this society...
that was emotional.
That was emotional. But in this society, I don't even think that's necessary anymore because of the kind of... just the general built-in allegiance people have for authority figures. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think there has to be a direct connection. But, we just... You know, I liked the activity in the chat tonight. I really liked it. There was just interaction from a lot of different people, not just 1 or 2 people or 5 people having a conversation with themselves. It was like 20 people. You know what I'm saying? Engage with each other. Really appreciate that. It's good to see Lisa commenting again. I missed your name in there. I always apply a voice to that name, so I like when you comment because I apply a voice to it. And there's another person that I like to apply a voice to as well, whose name was in the chat all night. She knows who she is.
It's being unnecessarily vague over here.
I know, right? Completely unnecessarily vague. Mugs already know what it is. But I didn't see somebody. I didn't see Moose Guy.
Didn't see Moose
who is
Guy.
usually chatty.
Yeah.
Schultz is in there. Human was in there for a second. Was in there. George is in there. I see. Of course, L Train was up in there doing his thing.
Oh, yo, before I, give a particular shout out, definitely want to give a shout out to all of our patrons on patreon.com for every month giving us some of that coffee money, or even more. Some people do contribute more, definitely, but that's some hard-earned money, and we definitely put it to good use. So we're gonna make some more changes to this program, definitely with the camera, like we've been talking about for weeks now. But I want to give a shout out to the Yankee boy, Mariano Rivera, man, became the first MLB player to get 100% of the vote for the Hall of Fame, man.
Are you serious?
Yes, man. Got 100%. The first one that ever got 100%. As before this happened, I was thinking to myself, I was like, who? You know what? Send me the name of somebody that doesn't vote for him. Straight up. Like there's been baseball players where I've thought should have gone through unanimously as well. And Mariano Rivera, I don't think there's any question that he's been the best closer in the game. So for somebody to not vote for him would have been crazy. So shout out to Mariano Rivera, man. Yankees. But anyway, everybody, have a good night. We'll be back on Thursday, which will probably be the 34th day of the partial government shutdown, because it doesn't look like there's going to be any movement. But where there will be a vote on Thursday. So I'm not sure of the time of the vote, but as we said earlier on in the show, there's going to be 2 bills. One is going to be about the offer from Trump, the just inconsequential offer from Trump that includes that $5.7 billion for about 200 miles of border wall. But then the other one won't contain any money for his border wall. It will just simply be about funding the government temporarily until February 8th. So it's going to be interesting to see how, those outcomes, or what those outcomes are. So we'll definitely be talking
They'll probably have till 12 a.m.
It's possible. So it could be ongoing throughout the show. So we'll just, we'll deal with it as it comes. But everybody, like I said, we appreciate your involvement, whether through chatting or calling us up. you know, liking our stuff, sharing our stuff across social media platforms. We appreciate it all. We will see you on Thursday. All right. So everybody be easy and take care.
Damn, son. Switch, nigga. Switch, break.